Village of Biscayne Park was a board position there. So it seems like we're not in the loop of what's going on over there. So I don't know if that's still something that they offer or then it's not been a position or if it was just a David Caviello thing. But it would be something that if we had a representative of Biscayne Park involved over there in some kind of public comment, we would know more about what's going on than just having a report from him. So I wish he was still here to have been able to answer that question. Um, I'm here, I wanted to just speak of the capital improvements that you're going to be voting on today. Again, I just want to speak about the pickleball courts. I want to come back to the question of, was there public input on this? Were there workshops on this? It just seems like this was a budgetary maneuver to get a pickleball court. How many of our residents are actually going to be using this pickleball court? Who's managing the court? Because I see crowds of people at courts all over town. Are we gonna now have to pay for a staff person to manage the court and keep names and checks and times so that people don't get into fights? Because it seems like it's gonna be a very heavily used thing if we do decide to use it. What are the hours? What about the noise? Is there gonna be a noise ordinance? Are the residents around the park even aware of this? Of the pop, 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 pop that pickleball does? I mean, it's loud. And I think where I know where it's being proposed, it's maybe 100 feet from somebody's bedroom. I would drive me crazy to hear that all day on a Saturday when I'm trying to relax and enjoy my home in my privacy. So again, I just, not sure where, how this all came about, except for the fact that it keeps popping up under capital improvements. And I don't know if the residents are aware of it. Plus also, we do have a little issue in the fact that our code does not allow chain link fences facing right of ways. So you wouldn't even be able to be allowed to be putting a fence around it, according to our own, building code. So that would require a variance of some sort or, so hopefully, this is being thought through. And, um, that's all I had to say tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Ezra Deutsch, 885 Northeast 113th Street. I'm doing this unprepared tonight, so let's see how I can do. First off, pickleball courts, yeah. I started a new job last August. I used to come to these all 2023. That was never talked about. And all of a sudden this year, all of a sudden it was on there. I find that as a single use thing. I mean, build a tennis court and then you can use it for both tennis and pickleball. I don't know where pickleball came up. I don't want it. Absolutely no. The app, Village app, I love it. Oh my God. It was talked about afterward, or it was talked about in the last week or last month's meeting, maybe 50 downloads or something. I'm definitely one of them. It's amazing. I'm not on Nextdoor. That is not part of my life. Holy, don't need that. The notifications that come through, probably done by the village manager, perfect. They get to straight to the point. I don't have to read public comment. It's amazing, the app. Every month I come here, I hear nitpicking about what's on the agenda or anything. That's managerial. Don't put that in public speak. I mean, I love our administration. I think that everybody's doing a great, fantastic job to bully or berate or to micromanage them in a public setting. Don't do that. Listen, and then do that off time. Lastly, I wish that he would have stayed too, Mr. Walsh. Everything's talked about traffic. So much is talked about traffic, so much is talked about roads. I'm talking about public transit, I'm talking about pedestrians and talking about biking. I would love private dollars since they're doing all this expansion and we're their neighbor. How can we get an upgrade to that bridge? I want 2 lanes. I use that all the time. I'm on my bike. We need to be a good neighbor in a county-wide setting, getting people from west flowing east on bikes, east flowing west. And if we can keep them away from this interchange, that'd be great. And if we can put public pressure on them to be a good neighbor, to donate however many, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars it might be, to make that wider and make that beautiful back there, put lighting, that's what I want. We always talk about traffic. We always talk about cars. Let's talk about building infrastructure that puts more bikes to flow back and forth. That's where I'm coming from. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Is this good enough? Can you hear me? Okay. You want to speak on my behalf? Thank you for having me. First of all, I really appreciate having this opportunity. I am home by, we're just bought a home at 1100-001 Northeast 9th Avenue this week. So I'm not a current resident. Yes, we live in Miami Shores, but we're moving to Biscayne Park. We're so happy to be joining this community, and thank you for having the ability to be outspoke our concerns. My main concern on moving into the area was to be able to pull the permits and do all the renovation constructions and whatever necessary to our home. But as a mother, and he's joining me right now, sorry, is to be able to build a fence or a gate in front of the property so we can park in and lock the cars and have a security. And I know through a contractor that this area is very well protected by police. And you guys are doing so great in keeping us safe. Miami Shores is not the same. We had our cars been broken 5 times within a year and a half or 2. So both of our cars. So kids get in and just steal our stuff and break through windows. So we want to prevent that that history in Miami Shores and coming to Biscayne Park. And I had the peace of mind that the contractor said that it's a great neighborhood, but yet you guys are not able to pull permits for garage and things like that. So I hope you guys can think about it. And on behalf of this little boy, my concern is not the theft or being broken to our cars, but him running away and while I'm putting groceries and things like that, and preventing any accidents that, I don't want to have anyone, myself being responsible for it, but also don't want to have the city involved to any emergencies or any incidents that may have happened. So any considerations, I will be happy to hear. Thank you so much.
Sir, what was your name?
My name is Anna.
Anna, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You have any other comment here in the log cabin? None? Okay. Mr. Manager, do we have anything on Zoom?
We have David. David, you're on mute.
Hey, how's that? Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. David Raymond, 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. I was looking at the Public Works report for the drains. And first of all, God bless you. Thank you for doing the drain inventory. I would like to perhaps offline have a discussion with the Public Works manager regarding the inventory, because I see, for example, the drains in front of our house, there's just one listed, one here, one across the street, whereas there are actually 4 drains here. 2 of them are well drains, and I don't see any well drains listed. So anyway, don't want to get into all that back and forth there, but perhaps if it's possible to meet with the Public Works manager to talk about the drains and the cleaning schedules. And I'm very grateful for that finally being in place. So thank you all, and welcome to the official commission meeting to our new commissioner, to Ryan. And I just want to say also, if you are going to vote on mayor tonight, Jonathan, you're doing a wonderful job, and I would fully support your, not that I get a vote, but thank you for all you do. So anyway, thank you. That's it.
That is it for online.
Having concluded public comment, do we have any commission reply? I do have one thing, Gage. About how long ago did you say that board with Miami Country? I just had I just had coffee with David last week. No.
When I moved here,
2016?
yeah, 9, 10.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask him next time. Stop down and see him when I'm down in Brickell every now and then. Yeah, if you, we have a public comment. Yeah, we have a public comment section here, so if anyone wants to speak at our open forum here, now is the time.
But I can speak loud.
Perfect.
My name is Mappy Mendoza. My address is 10733 Northeast 9th Avenue. I am a retired nurse. I am a psychologist. And I have lived in Biscayne Park for 19 years now. And I have heard many owners from the areas, they always speak about doing things, fixing things. But there's one thing I've never hear, and that is speaking about our police officers, our police department. Our police department is one of the best police units that I have ever lived in. And I've lived in Bay Harbor. I lived in many areas where, you know, you think that you may be well protected. Well, I had a fall last Monday, as you can all see. I have 5 stitches in my forehead. The 911 call came so fast. I know most of the officers by their faces, like I know, he might not know me, but I've seen him patrol at all times. And I think that let's give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God. We have to recognize these police officers. In the years that I lived here, I have left, and don't fear, honey, I have left my pocketbook, my phones, everything in my car, and I've gone inside to sleep. And in the morning, they're still there. So I have never had any incidents. And as you well know, right across the street from me is the tennis court. And there's all kinds of people walking by, all kinds that you and I won't even know who they are. But as far as I'm talking about our security, because I think that our security is very important. And I think that I don't even know who the mayor is. I have no idea who the board is, except for now I'm looking at the names. I have never had the opportunity. No one has ever knocked on my door to say, hey, we have meetings in so-and-so days. The only time I've seen pictures is when they ask me, we're running, we need your vote. And that's the only time. And I think that we are all a mixed community. This isn't about I'm an American or I'm Chinese or I'm Russian or I'm wherever I am. We're supposed to be a village. A village to me is union. Nobody knows who anybody is except the neighbors that you have across the street from you. Other than that, you have no idea who lives on 111, who lives on 112.
That is time.
So the only time I get to hear they're gonna do anything, it's today. And I don't even know who the mayor is, but,
Well,
oh, the lawyer.
So
You're the attorney, right?
I apologize.
Okay.
We do need to cut off public comment. Everybody gets 3 minutes.
yeah, public comment is limited to 3 minutes, but we would encourage you to come back and share your thoughts when we have these meetings
Well,
once a month.
I'm sorry, I'm used to it. I'm a psychologist. When I, give my seminars, I get to the point. So in other words, I'm gonna walk out, but I would like to know who everyone is. God bless you for all you're all trying to do. And it's sad that I don't see that many.
Came
Okay,
to the right meeting and you
nice
met
to
a
meet
neighbor.
you too.
Ms. Mendoza,
It's
what's your address again, please?
10733 Northeast 9th Avenue.
Northeast Ninth Avenue, okay.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to picture a tennis court down there. I don't- Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Right across is the tennis court and then.
Oh, for Miami Country Day School. Yeah, okay. I now understand.
I'm the first, the second, house from 107 going up. Right here, the garbage, but not garbage, but I mean, happy,
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. We appreciate it.
Come more often, Mappy. We're here every month.
Okay, so let's, having concluded our public comment, was there any additional reply to a public comment at this time?
I have one thing. I want to thank you, Mappy, for coming. We love when people come to our meetings. It's wonderful. Absolutely, absolutely. And we listen. Yep, and we listen. Ezra, the pickleball, we're so far from any of that being decided on, just FYI. But just to clarify, what we had discussed was a tennis court that would also serve as 2 pickleball courts. So it was dual purpose, just to make sure you're aware of that little detail. But again, we're really far from that. That's it. Thank you.
Any others?
I had one thing. One thing I wanted to say is I completely agree with Gage. Pickleball should be more community involvement. We should go out and reach our residents, especially the ones who are going to be living around there, and involve them in decisions. Thankfully, we are far away from that. Hopefully, we will engage in those residents and get more community involvement.
Let me just, this whole pickleball thing has gotten to a point where it's even comical. So the idea was just to get a price to find out what it was going to cost. And then we would engage Gage, we would engage with residents, and we would have conversations, and we would have community input. We haven't even gotten to the what's the cost part yet. So yeah, it's there, but we can move it around. The point is that,
Not approved.
huh?
Money's not approved. Just-
Right, exactly. But the point is that we're not anywhere near, we're just trying to get a price of what it was, because it may not even be feasible to put a pickleball court. So absolutely, please. Well, maybe it's cheap. Well, maybe we put 10 courts now. All right, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. For the city, it's a lot more complicated than just getting a price like that, because we have to get a study and we have to test the soil and we got to see if the atmosphere is right. It's a little more complicated. But anyway, the point is, listen, guys, everybody needs to relax on the pickleball thing. It's not anywhere near, it's just in the very preliminary stages. But
We have no other reply to the comments at this time. We'll go ahead.
Jonathan, Danielle didn't, it's her first meeting. She didn't understand when she.
Sure, yeah, oh, yes.
Sorry.
Well,
Longtime listener, first time caller. Danielle Wolf, I'm at 120 Northeast 115th. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry the timer's not going. I will be very fast. I am interested in joining Parks and Parkways Advisory Committee, so I'm your girl, excited to be here. But I do actually have another comment about the app. Super handy, really like it. Would be curious if there's any community engagement plans, QR codes, any way to really get it out there. Because if you're not, I only heard about it through the newsletter, so I'm curious how many people are signed up for the newsletter. So I think it would be great in the little park where the flyers are, maybe QR codes, any information there, but can talk about that maybe on the committee. So thank you so much. Very excited to continue to come and learn more about our little village here.
Thank you.
Thanks for volunteering, Danielle.
Say, as far as the app goes, I know the manager is at least part of the report that we're about to get to. Okay, so moving into our reports, we'll start with our manager. Mr. Manager, would you like to provide any specific comment on the report that you provided? And before you get there, to the point that you made, Commissioner, on 12, what was 12F? I noticed that his report adopted that,
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
up and rolling on that, which is great. So, Mr. Manager, without further ado.
Just two quick things to mention. First of all, the manager report is in the new format that was requested last meeting. So the first section of it is essentially the capital improvement plan, the CIP, along with monthly updates. Right now, we just have the two fields, one for May, one for June, to show what that's going to look like. Once we get past June, it's going to be, we'll have 1 month in advance showing on that CIP. So it's gonna turn into a pretty lengthy, pretty wide document, I should say. The second thing to mention is on the police report. If you look at that, let me back up. As part of the manager evaluation, the two things that were brought up were communications and reporting. May and June are my months for tackling reporting, so we're starting to see some of those changes now. If you look at the police report, you will see that I've broken down, or I've simplified the reporting to show each individual type of call for service or traffic citation or what have you on a monthly basis. So you'll see the numbers for April in the current report, and then the table goes out to December. As we go through each month moving forward, we're going to continue to have those monthly numbers so that will give us context. 97 calls for service, for example, which is what we're looking at for April, maybe high, maybe low, we don't know. But as we get that context, we'll be able to see. The other thing that I'm considering doing with this report is moving away from more reporting on citations and violations and instead focusing on contacts. I think having a warning issued or a stop in conversation is just as valuable as having a citation issued. So we're going to be playing around with that. Other than those two, nothing else has changed. We do have finance in the meeting tonight. If you do have questions about the financial report, and I also have Director Penna here for Public Works if you have questions on those reports.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Did you want to provide any additional update for the website app? There was a couple of comments brought up about that, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. The app, we finally finished configuring the public facing side of the application. We're honing our notification strategy. This past week, for example, we trained 2 other people who are now able to go in and do those notifications, including the police department themselves, as well as somebody else at Village Hall. Once everything is fully up and running, the plan is to do a marketing campaign of some sort. Ideas that we're currently toying with are QR codes on our vehicles, QR codes at all of our office locations. We currently have one up at Village Hall. We may or may not look at doing something like door hangers or a mailing. It just depends on what that cost would be. But for everybody who is watching, listening here, spread the word about the application. It's available in the Google and Apple app stores.
It's free. Yep, free is good.
Any questions on the manager's report?
I have a couple. I have a bunch, but I'm going to skip through some of these really quickly. First of all, Chris, I love the new reporting structure, so thank you for that. I didn't understand that the CIP was first and your report followed, so that's great. And the time factor that you included in makes it really easy. If there are some lines in there that I can't read, however, they're really super, super faint and I can't read them. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you run down through the CIP section, there's a bunch of stuff I couldn't read. And I understand that you're putting things in the month that you're reporting it, and a lot of that activity will really be the month prior. I would prefer it in a spreadsheet, at least for our use here, and here's why. To your point about it's going to get really wide as the months go on, and we don't want to lose that history. If it's on a spreadsheet, you can lock the left side of the spreadsheet so the rest of it slides back and forth. So that way you can get to where you need to be and maneuver around it really easily. That's the benefit of having it in Excel rather than as a PDF, which will get really cumbersome because then it will become multiple pages. It'll be like the CIP that is impossible to read. So for things like that, keeping it as an Excel, I think is the best. There's also a couple of things on there that are waiting CIP approval tonight, so that's really good. Some specific questions. On your report, it says the generator, you're waiting for the commission to approve money. I thought we approved the money for that last meeting, no? Or is there something else we have to do for you?
The CIP needs to be approved to move forward with generator spending.
Oh, it's approving the CIP. Okay, 'cause it says we have to approve the money. I thought, okay, it didn't say approve the CIP. That's what got me confused. The B house, is that the same case with the B house? It says you're gonna come to us and ask us for money for legal fees so we can move forward. That thing's been in the works for years, like literally 30 years. Is that also something that needs CIP approval?
No.
Okay, good. So I hope we can fast track that. I'm just curious, why do you need a fence around the septic mound? That's the first I heard about that when I read your report today.
Because the cones that are on the septic mound look pretty nasty.
Why did that have to be? I didn't know anything had to be there because for the longest time, there was nothing there. It was just a hill.
We need to ensure that nobody drives up the septic mound, so we need some sort of demarcation on the yard to prevent that from happening.
Cool. And then the ILA update. We're gonna hopefully get that next meeting. I was really expecting to see it here on tonight's agenda.
We'll skip ahead very quickly.
Okay.
That was part of my, it's,
I'll wait then until you
Oh,
bring it up.
all right.
Okay. And that's it. Thanks. I have some things in the other departments, but that's all for the manager's report.
any other questions for the manager's report at this time?
Are we gonna go by department or are we asking just about manager's report?
Well, we have, since we have the manager's report and we're on the topic, we might as well start there. I did have one question for our Public Works Director on.
I have questions for other
Okay,
departments.
so
as
I'll
well.
just focus on the report.
Okay.
Chris, we should have spoken about this before, we never had the time, so just a couple questions real quick. The code compliance vegetation site triangle focus area begun in April, I'm guessing that's the 107th and 9th Street? That is later on,
I can't hear you, Veronica.
sorry.
Yeah.
In the Excel where he has his status, there is a note regarding the vegetation site triangle focus area. I was wondering if this is being done across the village or if this is specific to the corner of 107th and 9th.
No, this is village-wide. Several of the complaints that we've received village-wide, whether it's on Sixth or Griffin or whatever, are about the site triangle, so we're focusing on that village-wide.
Love that. Awesome. Then phone issues, I know you've had some issues with a vendor here and there. So I had a couple people tell me they code department and nobody answers. I don't know if this is related to that, and I just want to make everybody aware of it.
Yep, absolutely. Our current situation with our phones is that they may or may not work on any given day. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. We are unfortunately locked into a contract with this particular vendor. So we're exploring other ways to ensure connectivity. So for example, one of the things that we're doing is if a desk phone does not ring, it can forward automatically to a department head cell phone, for example. So we're trying to find other ways to keep those lines of communication open even when our existing phone system is down.
Got it. Okay. Is it something you have sort of a anticipated deadline for this to be solved, that we can let people know if for the next couple of weeks it's going to be on and off? I don't know.
It's going to be on and off for the next several months,
So
unfortunately.
probably coming to Village Hall would be the best suggested in case something is needed.
Or email, or we have this really cool app that you can use.
I like that. I like that. Installing solar in all public buildings, waiting for generate electrical plants. I wasn't sure when you meant installing solar in all public buildings. What specific, are we talking about like solar across the buildings? I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was included on the strategic plan, I believe, as one of the focus areas.
Okay.
So that can be a combination of things. That can be something as simple as the solar lights illuminating the Biscayne Park signs in the median. Conversations that we've had in the past with this commission are using solar to power an entire building, and we're not at that point in technology yet.
Okay, but it's there, and I remember discussing, but I now I understand what it means. And lastly, I had also about the ILA, you'll talk about that, but then the $6,000 camera that we are going to buy or we bought, can you remind me what the purpose of the camera, like what's the ability of it to, what does it do and how we use it?
The license plate reader camera, the $6,000 we were going to pilot this, that allows us to take a snapshot of any vehicle driving past. It's not a live video where we sit and watch it, but rather if there's a break-in in a car up the street, we can pull the camera.
We can see it.
Correct.
Thank you. I just had a resident tell me that that was more specific for speeding, and that's not the case.
No, that's not.
And that, I'm sorry, to interrupt, that's mobile, right? That's something you can move around to different locations. It's not one set location? Or is that permanent when you buy that one?
The product that we were looking at is a single pole mounted camera. It's
Mhm.
not, well, it's permanent. It's
Yeah,
not.
so it is permanent, okay.
Movable.
And my last one, I know Deputy Chief was discussing about the program that I kind of suggested to get in touch with Commissioner Regalato's team about Autism Awareness Month and the decals project that she's going on. Hopefully, there's something that we can replicate in the village. Have you had any sort of an update of where that stands?
He's working on getting that training. There's a specific training course for officers. It's only offered in specific locations at specific times. So I was trying to figure out how best to accomplish getting our officers to that training.
Okay, awesome. I'll talk about that on my time. That's it for me. Thank you.
Any other questions for the manager on his report right now?
Yeah, I have one quick question for Chris. As regards to the phones, do we have some kind of communication plan we're working on to bring out to the residents to give alternate means of communicating with the village? Because it may be app or email or something like that. I also have had residents contact me and said they've called code, got no response, no one picked up the phone. I'm sure it was during those phone outages. But maybe we could provide a second means of communication. If this doesn't work, do this.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I've gotten multiple phone calls in regards to the status of the chief. And people are asking me questions, and obviously I don't have any answers because I don't know what's going on. I just tell them that he's on administrative leave, which is what I've been told. But it's been going on now for a couple of weeks, and my concern is, we've had a history here with some bad situations in the past. And the longer that this is prolonged, the more attention that this is drawing to the village. So I sent you guys an email when I first found out about this, I think it's like 2 weeks ago now or whatever, that, I'm hoping that for a speedy and judicious finale. And I'm hoping that that happens sooner than later. I don't know why it's taken so long. Whether this is just purely an administrative issue or if it's a criminal issue, I don't know anything because no one's told me. But at some point, we're going to have to know the entire situation, right? But I'm just hoping that everybody's laser focused on getting this resolved. Okay, that's all I have to say.
If I can add on to that, since you brought that topic up, I also have been in communication with Brad and the I almost said the chief, the manager, about communication on that topic. Because, there's a way to respond, and then you have to also look at it in the context of where you are. And here in Biscayne Park, we have a very unfortunate history with our police department. One of our former police chiefs is in prison, in actual prison, for things that he did here in the village while he was employed here. And lots of other things went down that were just terrible. So there are these preconceived notions, and when you don't get ahead of a message and you allow people to fill in blanks for themselves, they run in all kinds of directions. So, and that's exactly what has been happening since day one. It made the news. I was out of town. I was in Atlanta for the week when it happened, and I was getting calls, Mac, it's on the news. What's going on? I know what you know from the news. And now people are really getting annoyed, and they start running off in tangents and coming up with their own guesses about what's really happening. So I would have appreciated a better communication on this right from the get-go, because no communication is bad communication. So I'm also hoping for a speedy resolution, but that has nothing to do with us up here. It happens when it happens. We'll be informed, but I'm not pleased about how this was communicated with the residents because it just led to all kinds of problems that didn't need to happen. I'm sure you got I don't know if you guys got the phone calls as well. I couldn't even take a walk without being stopped. I got stopped in Publix and asked about it, for God's sake.
While we're on the point, if there's anything that you'd like to provide, at least at this point, certainly welcome your addition.
And I've spoken to many of you privately. I know I haven't given you a whole lot of information and there's.
You have to talk in the microphone, right?
Closer to me. I said, I know I've spoken with many of the commissioners privately on the issue, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to give you a lot of information, and I understand the frustration. I understand the residents' frustration. But there is a Florida statute that specifically prohibits either the village or the individuals that are involved in the inquiry or investigation, whatever term you want to use, from providing any information about the investigation until the chief has been provided a conclusion of the investigation. And if any discipline, and I'm not saying there is discipline appropriate, but if there is any appropriate discipline based on the findings, the chief is made aware of that as well. And there's a very good, again, I understand the history and I understand why the tensions are what they are. But there's a very good reason why that statute exists. And the last thing you would want, and last thing the chief would want, is for some allegation to be hanging out there, which is just that, an allegation, that becomes completely public before it's been investigated and determined whether there's any basis to it whatsoever. And then later on, the outcome comes that, oh, it's not true or it's not accurate. It's very hard to unring that bell with regards to somebody's reputation. And so the reality is that that's really what the purpose is. So and ancillary reasons as well is so that the investigation is not
Compromise.
compromised. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word for a moment. Compromised in any way. If there's potential witnesses that need to be spoken to, they're not communicating with each other. There's no couching of testimony. And I'm not suggesting that that's the path that we took here, but I will tell you that what we looked into was very labor intensive. That since the day that the chief was put on administrative leave, I think the manager and I have spoke almost every day on the issue. We've communicated with the individuals in the village that are conducting the inquiry and going through numerous documents that had to go through. And I can also tell you that I believe I'm not going to give you a time frame or a date because that's never a good idea, but this should be brought to a resolution shortly.
All of that's very reasonable, Brad, and a little short version of that to be communicated is what I was talking about. Not compromising anything, just simply letting people know that something happened and here's what we can tell you now, and you'll know more when you can know more. That's all I'm suggesting. Because to your point, allegations, that's what I was hearing. Oh, did he do this? Was it this? I know him. I wasn't that. If you heard that, it wasn't that. I'm like, I know nothing. So that's I was like, I know nothing. I know what you know, nothing. And now you're making guesses and you don't know either, you know?
Just ask all of you on the dais and all the residents that have the angst that they have is just to have faith that this
I do.
process is
Just
going to
would like
work.
that to be shared.
And we'll reach, nobody has been, it's to nobody's advantage. It's not to the village's advantage. It's not to the chief's advantage for us to delay this, to prolong it any longer than necessary. And everybody has been working diligently. My observations, everybody's been working diligently to bring this to fruition.
I'm sure you are.
to an outcome.
Okay. Thank you, Brad.
One positive thing, in case you guys don't know, our former manager, Mario, is being installed as the president of the Managers Association
Oh, that's awesome.
in June or July.
So
Fantastic.
So I talk to him all the time, so I'm very proud and very happy for him.
That's fantastic.
not to co-opt where we are right now, so my apologies, but we do have Mayor Omar Nickerson here from El Portal, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity if you wanted to address the commission for anything, or if there's a specific purpose why you've joined us here this evening.
And if there's food in that bag, I will happily distribute it for you, Omar.
Don't worry, Mac, you're getting one, you're getting one. I just wanted to say, being a neighboring city, El Portal, I just wanted to say that I appreciate all of you. You came to my State of the Village address. You came to my State of the Village address. I have an initiative that I started a while ago called Connecting the County North, South, East, and West. I'll be back to talk more about that, but because of that, what I've been doing is I've gone to all 34 municipalities, 35, including Miami-Dade County itself at the county commission. And I do go to their meetings for kind of best practices to kind of see what everybody else is doing and see where we can connect. So I've done all the South, I've done all the West. I'm also on numerous chambers of commerce, expanding from Aventura to Hialeah to down to Key Biscayne and Palmetto Bay, the Chamber South, which is Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, Florida City, Homestead, and Pinecrest. And so, being that we're neighbors, there is going to be things that I want to, reach out and do with you all more. And I just kind of view Miami-Dade County as, a full county of 34 municipalities, not 34 separate municipalities that just kind of like, stay on their own. So just want to kind of establish that throughout the county. I've been successful in other regions of the county. I just want to make sure that, my neighbors, my brothers and sisters in Miami Shores and Biscayne Park, that, you guys are first and foremost. That being said, I'm about to go sit down, but before I do, just want to say this, show this. This, first of all, is for all of you guys.
Thank you, sir. It's Mother's Day. A mother's gift.
I always say that, as a mayor, I know what not only commissioners, vice mayors, and mayors do. Unfortunately, like Biscayne Park, Elbert Tower, we have a small budget, so I have to do this out of my own pocket. So I was only able to get one. So I would like to recognize the mayor. How you doing, my brother? Everything good? And I'm gonna leave it with you, but just to show you guys. Full crystal, like I said, I got to buy this out of my own pocket, so I couldn't buy as many for everybody. It says, Mayor Biscayne Park, Jonathan E. Groth, Esquire. Your presence and dedication has been the essential element of Biscayne Park and its surrounding neighbors. Thank you for your years of great service to our communities. You are appreciated. Mayor Omar C. Nickerson, PhD, Village of Elbert Top. So thank you for this, you guys.
Very kind of you, Mr. Mayor. Put you on the agenda. You should have said you were done.
Wanted to be a surprise. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Mayor, and that's very kind of you. We appreciate your efforts. Now, how do I get back on track after this? Jeez. Let's go ahead and see if we have any other questions as far as our department reports go. We have our Public Works Director here. I do have one quick question for you, but give you an opportunity to come on up and open the floor for questions with respect to the Public Works report. I just had the one question for you about our the Kimley Horn report.
Okay.
On the intersection down at 107 and Northeast 9th. It almost reads to me that what they're telling us is that they don't really see a problem. But I know we talked about relocating the sign there at least and relocating some of those things to try and help clear up sight lines. Just was hoping to get maybe an update from you on where we stand with that.
Well, our discussions with Kimley Horn regarding the sign after the last meeting was to make sure that the sign wasn't a site obstruction. So they came out, they looked at it, they measured it, and from what they've gathered, it's not in the line of sight. We also discussed the other improvements for the crosswalk on 107. So it may be that we may have to move it once they come up with some preliminary idea of how to install a crosswalk there.
With the sidewalk that they mentioned, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, but at this time, it's not really an obstacle to the traffic. So if we don't have to move it, I'd rather not, because it's a very heavy sign to begin with. But it's actually identifying the area to the residents as Biscayne Park. Also, we also discussed reducing the radius turn into Biscayne Park heading north. And they're all going to look at that and come back to us with a proposal for any improvements to that area.
Okay, that makes sense. So do we have an expectation on maybe when we're going to hear back from them on that?
From what I understand from them, it should be for the next meeting for June.
Can I give an update on that? I think it's,
Yeah.
I was doing on my report. So I had the chance to meet some of the guys from the Department of Transportation, Public Works, when CAVA came to our village. And they welcomed me to their offices, sort of to explain the process. I said, that's was one of my main questions is how do we go about this, right? That was a question I had at things when I was running as a candidate. And so I went to their offices, I met with them. They were amazing, sort of explaining the different options that there are in terms of the path, the crosswalk, right? Am I saying it right? Yeah.
Yes.
And so a good thing regarding that, before I went, I checked with Chris on, in terms of what the status was what we need to do. What is our sort of side of it? And I understood that there was a sort of a placement of a landing of the cross path that needed to happen on our side.
Correct.
So when we met and they kind of look at the corner, they said, well, actually, if it's the lighting one, the one that you press the button and you have to cross, it actually falls 100% on their sort of responsibility. And so it does on their budget,
With them, you mean the county?
the county. Because they recognize that there is no way they can connect, obviously, a lighting sort of a fixture that has two ends to it, and we have to take care of one side. So they said, well, if that's what it needs to happen, we will make sure that that falls within our sort of purview, and they take full sort of leadership in terms of where it needs to be. They do the proper design, and, you know, everything that would have to do with our budget. So I thought that was amazing news. I came running and I told Chris that when I met with them, that was sort of the situation. And I also made sure to tell Commissioner Steinberg, because at some point this is going to hit her budget. So to let her know that it's amazing news for us. At the end of the day, we just want to make that corner intersection safe, whatever Public Work recommends that needs to be happening with all the measurements that they need to follow, and knowing that this could be 100% budgeted for from the county. It's a huge step forward making it happen.
Correct.
So this, it was today or yesterday that I made sure to follow my 2 weeks just to touch base with the commissioner, which according to the department is when she should have already seen a memo at least about this. So great news on that side. I wanted
Correct.
to give you.
That's great.
Well, I also gave Kimley Horn the personnel that we met out here for them to get in contact regarding that whole area to see if they're going to proceed with it or if they want Kimley Horn to come up with something.
So thank you again, because that was you know, the corner it's always been an issue, but I appreciate you getting involved, getting the clearance on the sign, all of that. Thank you.
Correct, because we don't have any documentation of how it was
Yeah.
done back then. How the sign was done back then? Correct.
Juan, I have another question before I let you go, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Regarding the grant on your report, you talk about the grants, the specimens that were all planted, are those in terms of they're doing great? How do we know, and how often do you sort of revise how we're doing with what we got as a grant? If anything needs to be, you know, water has been an issue I've heard in the past about grants and trees we've received, some of them dying. What would you say it's the status and how often you go about that?
Well, from what I've observed out there, there's probably I would say about 6 or 8 trees that were planted in a previous grant that are dead. Those or will have to be removed and either replaced or left covered. The ones that we just planted and all of the landscaping that was planted along 121st, we're watering that on a weekly basis. I know people don't see the truck out there, but he goes by every day, and Saturdays he's also out here watering those trees. So we're giving it the best chance of survival.
Okay,
So if they survive through this little drought period that we've had,
yeah.
in April, May, they should be seeing them flourish again.
Great. Then you said there's a new dock station. Where's that at?
There's a new what?
A dock station, like,
No, we haven't received it yet.
okay.
We did replace one that was donated years ago on 10th Avenue, I believe.
Yeah.
But it was hit and damaged, so we just put in the new equipment there and changed over the dedication sign to that.
Okay. Got it. And then thank you for the benches. My medium was one of them, so it looks wonderful. The other one needed to be replaced, so thank you.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but we also restored the wood benches that were out here.
Okay,
It's being restored. It's a cheaper alternative, but better than
what we had.
getting a splinter. Yes.
Thank you.
We have any other questions for?
I have a couple of other things. I'll make it really quick. First of all, thanks for the report. And the drain inventory, I was really happy to see that. That's the best, like, sort of inventory and status. It's like, wow, that's kind of feels to me like everything we need to know so you can manage this going forward. We've not seen that before. We've seen little pieces, things here and there. David Raymond brought up an interesting point. I'm sure you heard him say that about the well drains that aren't on there. I don't.
Yeah, those are auger wells. They're not really drains. And in fact, Durham doesn't like you to use them as drains because they actually go into the Biscoyne aquifer. So they would prefer us to abandon them in the future and cover them up.
Okay. So, and they're ready to go, you're ready to go for rainy season.
Yes.
Keep an eye on it. That's awesome news. Thank you for that. I saw that you're suggesting some more electrical outlets out here. The event that you and I put together for Mayor Capo that we set up, it was apparent, that we could have used more electricity in other events as well. So I was very happy to see that. The Neat Street trees that you'll be getting, you'll have a functioning Parks and Parkways board here soon that you'll be able to lean on for that. The new containers at the Public Works facility, you said you need electricity, you need to add electricity for them. Is that a temporary thing for those containers, and was that included in the original cost for that?
No, that would be, now that we have them placed on site, that would be to power them up so we have use of them day or night.
But are they the permanent fix to what's going to happen over there?
No, those are temporary. They're just laying on soil right
Will
now.
that be a temporary electrical fix just to get them
Correct.
functioning, and that'll come down?
Correct.
And won't be part of the permanent, whatever's happening over there?
Before we demolish the existing garage,
Mhm.
we will transfer that service to those containers
I
on
see.
a temporary poles to
Got it.
power those.
Awesome. Okay. And then the sign. So I was happy to see about the sign. It was interesting. I had not seen, obviously, I'm not a road engineer. I don't know how that works, but it was interesting to see how they do it on Google Maps, and they're able to do it. So that was kind of cool. It didn't look like they went all the way to that line that you're required to stop at. You're required to stop at the white line, not at the edge where the street meets the street. And their line didn't really go there, but I'm guessing they know what they're doing. But we get a lot of anecdotal complaints about people pulling out from 9th on to Griffin or 107th, whatever it's called there, that it is hard to see what's coming from Aldi's, let's say, from Biscayne Boulevard.
Correct.
So it sounds like officially it's okay. I'm hoping maybe we can still address it in the future because anecdotally we hear that it's not a great place to pull out, especially if there's a bunch of cars stacked up and the speed at which the cars come over the tracks and go flying down Griffin. It's the speed factor. When you add that in, it's kind of like, okay, I know what the rules are here, but it still doesn't feel safe.
Correct.
Anyway, it sounds like you'll be looking.
They're
at that.
gonna
Thank
look
you.
at all that.
Thank you.
I had one more thing. It's more of a concern and observation I made. On 6th Avenue, the light poles we have where we have Welcome to Biscayne Park banners that are hanging on the light poles, a lot of them are missing, and certain ones that are there are so sun washed out that you can almost not even tell that they say Welcome to Biscayne Park anymore anyway. Do we have reserves of those that we can replace, or is it something we can order to have new ones, or at least just take the ones down that are so damaged that they're embarrassing to our village?
Yeah, they are embarrassed.
As an observation.
It's up to the manager if we could fund those, to replace them with new ones. They are in pretty bad shape.
To that point, it's interesting, when I read the traffic study from 2009 or 2014? I always get the year wrong. The old one.
2008.
What is it?
2008.
2008. One of the recommendations they made in there was to better identify your community because it makes people pay attention to what's going on there. They know they're in a different community now. It looks better. They slow down. So things like our welcome signs was one of the things they recommended, and those banners probably fall into the same category. So anyway, we can kind of sort of stake our claim, hey, you're in Biscayne Park now. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Okay, so we have a couple other reports here. I don't know that we have representatives for these ones other than our clerk. But do we have any other questions with respect to any of the other reports before we move to the consent agenda?
I have a couple of things. Yeah, I'll go really fast. Brad, the short-term rental changes, remind us when that happens. I keep getting complaints about that.
As of yesterday, the
Yeah.
governor has not signed that bill yet.
Okay.
It's been enrolled and engrossed, so it's going to be sent to him at some point.
Okay.
But it has not. I will sit down. Code and I have been working on changes to the code policies and
Mm.
procedures. But I'm in the process of reviewing your ordinances and seeing what changes have to be made, and I'll have.
And when he signs it, it becomes a law immediately upon signing, or is there like 120 days or something? Do we have a little minute to get this done, or do we need to hop on that?
We have some time. I can't
Okay.
remember exactly.
Okay, as long as, I just want to know that,
It takes effect July 1, so we have a little bit of time.
okay, very good. Code, I was really very happy to see that pool safety is being taken so seriously by the code department. I get complaints about that on a pretty regular basis, and there have been a bunch of examples recently of pools that are open to the street, and that's a real safety hazard, my God. A kid wanders in there, all we need is one horrible, tragic situation, and we'd be looking at ourselves saying, why the hell did we let that happen? So I was really glad to see that. So kudos to the code department. Congratulations to Raphael. He's a new certified code officer, so that's really exciting. I was hoping I would see him here tonight. That's it for code. The police Art kind of beat me to the punch. A question in the police report, Chris. There was something in there with 4 April dates that were referencing some kind of a traffic enforcement. That's not our new traffic thing. You're waiting for CIP approval for that, right?
That is not the new traffic thing. Those are the 4 dates during April that they had additional traffic enforcement, as we have been doing for many months now.
So that was just what we had done before. Okay. The rec center. Is it possible to get the books back? The books were all taken away. It seems to be like a big mystery what happened, why the books were all gone. I got a bunch of complaints from people I don't want to get involved in all the whatever's going on, but the books were all taken away to start a new fresh library, and all the books at the rec center were taken out. Where are they? I get conflicting answers about where they are.
I don't have that information for you. We're working on it.
Okay. Were you not aware of that, Art? Yeah, as part of the renovation, I guess they decided to start a fresh new library and only get brand new books, and they were asking people to donate books. I bought a couple of books for them. I was happy to donate books, but we had hundreds of books in there that people used, and they're all gone. So would like to hear that the books are back. Did you know about this?
No, no.
Just to clarify, that was not done by Biscayne Park.
Right. Would you want to fill in the blanks, Chris? Because I'd rather you say it than me.
There's some communication issues between the foundation and operations. They have some great ideas for things they want to accomplish. We need to have more communication, better communication to avoid situations like this. So the end result is an updated library. The short-term issue that we're experiencing is the books being removed while new ones are brought in. So
We don't know
that
what
was
the-
done without permission, that was done without consultation, and we're working on that process to get everything back.
Oh, so you think it's a possibility you can get them back?
That's not what I said. I said we're working on the process to see if we can.
Okay, that's why I kind of worded it a different way, Chris. It's okay. I think we're in agreement there on that one, buddy. Okay, the finance report. I wish they came with some kind of an explanation, some kind of copy to sort of telling us where we stand. It's a lot to pour through, and I do go through it and look for things, but I would appreciate something that said, hey, in this month, in this unaudited financials, there are red flags on a couple of things. Be aware of these. Everything looks good over here. If there was a story that was told to go along with them, if it's there, I didn't see it, but I did look through there. Pamela, congratulations on the election. That was a nice fluid election. It was tiny, I know, but it was a nice warm up for the big one that you have coming up. But it was a really nice day over at Biscayne Park Rec Center. And that's all I have.
Can I ask a question on code? The trash can bulk trash 32, I mean, it's a big number. I was just wondering, what is that? Is that just trash cans being placed outside, now being picked up in time? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's two different things. It can be trash cans out at the curb, or it can be trash cans visible where they shouldn't be visible.
Okay, all right. I just had a conversation about that. So that, remind me, that is an automatic $25 fine.
The way code is written, there is no option for a warning. It is an automatic violation and fine.
Have you seen that list, Veronica, of the administrative citations, the specific violations that get an automatic fine? Okay,
Not seeing the trash can was also the.
yeah. I just want to make sure you're aware there's a separate list, and if you haven't seen it, you can get it on, I think it's online, okay.
Chris, I have one quick question. The Biscayne Park police detective that was struck by a fleeing suspect, was he injured in any way? Is he okay? Was there any update on that?
He was not injured. Thankfully, he was able to get into the vehicle before the suspect rammed the car. No injuries whatsoever. The damage to the vehicle actually comparatively wasn't that bad. So we're okay. We're going through the insurance process and I forget what the official term is, reparations from the restitution, thank you, from the criminal to get that paid for.
A little different.
Glad to hear he wasn't injured.
Okay, so if we have no other questions about the reports at this time, I know we don't have a section for commission reports in here, but I did want to provide a brief update on the ILA. I'll wait for Commissioner Kennedy before I give that, but very quickly, it's something that Mr. Mayor here from El Portal and I had discussed and shared some information on how we can best implement the interlocal agreements here in the villages. But anyway, I'll come back to that very quickly. An additional update is we recently, just Friday, we had a meeting at Commissioner Steinberg's office. There was a District 4 meeting. I didn't see you in attendance. But several community leaders got together from District 4 with Commissioner Steinberg. Several of the things that were discussed, unfortunately, didn't really impact us. They talked a lot about condos and marine enforcement, noise enforcement on the water, things that don't really affect us. Well, they were talking more about noise problems with people partying on boats and creating issues for residents that way. Things like that. We talked a little bit about septic sewer, but not in a way that unfortunately is helpful to us. They talked more about updates to existing sewer systems to help with pollution in the bay. There was a little bit of talk about the short-term rental issues going to the governor. Some of the mayors from around District 4 somehow believe that we can still beat it. Doesn't seem to be the case, but there was some optimism. So I guess we'll wait to see what happens. The short-term rental law that's going into effect.
There was some talk that we can what?
There was some optimism from at a meeting that was held at Commissioner Steinberg's office on Friday for District 4 municipalities. Specifically, Miami Shores has the optimistic feeling that it may not go into law. Don't really know why, other than just people have been opposing it, but based on what we've heard, that doesn't really seem to be the case, but I guess we'll wait and see. Vice Mayor Kennedy, we were waiting here to give a brief update on the ILA. So I think we had provided this update that the draft was in the hands of the county. The county did come back to us with one change that we very promptly made and sent same day, sent back to them. And then we didn't really hear much for a while. Brad and I talked a little while ago about getting in touch with them, getting an update. So we sent an update request, haven't heard. I did put a call into to DOT to ask what's going on and whether we have an update or is there anything they're waiting on from us. I have not had a return phone call just yet, but we keep pinging. I did talk to Commissioner Steinberg when we were at the office on Friday, and her staff, her chief legislative person, I guess. And she said, just keep in touch. Just keep asking, wait for their approval. We should have it. She was happy that we were doing it and that we are close. I shared some of our information with El Portal in hopes that they can have some success, in hopes that we have that same success. So unfortunately, that's really the update. We've asked, we've called, we've sent emails, and we're waiting for a substantive update from them.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'll try to call the county attorney's office tomorrow.
Okay.
See if I can find out if it's been assigned to a county attorney to review.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then I can reach out. If it has been, I can talk to them.
Directly to them.
See what the status is and if there's any issue.
Perfect. So that's what I have on that for now. Okay, so unless there's any additional reports we'd like to receive at this time, we'll go ahead and move on to our consent agenda.
I just have a quick update just to tell you. So, regarding 109, sorry, 107 and 9, that was done. Then the other was, obviously about the presentation we received today with Country Day. That was a concern from many residents. And I'm glad to see an answer on that. I think one of the things that I mentioned at the time to Mr. Walsh was the idea, and again, collaborating and keeping us informed so that we can make everybody aware. So hopefully we continue to make that happen. The county approved this on April, sorry, we're May. And I was on my way there and I wasn't gonna make it. It took me an hour and 15 minutes to get there from here. It was ridiculous. And almost arriving to it, knowing that I wasn't gonna make it, I sent an email to Commissioner Steinberg with my thought of hoping to defer it. I've learned that the process is not that. The process is actually you go through the planning and zoning sort of department first. So that is a learning curve for me, but I think if I have to say, unfortunately, we kind of like lost the momentum of having an opportunity to say something of this before. And I think this is a learning chance for us to be aware and with the ears open of what happens around us. It really impacts us in ways that we don't even know. I mean, you heard today, Mr. Walsh speaking about even 111th and what it means to them right across the street. And there's sort of this disconnect that happen all the time. So I think we have to kind of stay on it somehow. And there's just so much happening in North Miami on the side. And I had the chance to talk to Commissioner Steinberg. Obviously, they approved it, and I know it was everybody approved it and passed it. But the idea of not being ready with the ILA and having, seeing still the impacts of increased traffic around us when we could have said something before felt almost like we arrived too late. But she's aware, she, again, it sort of explain what the process is in the future, just to go through the planning department. We could have said something and maybe present a case as to why this is an issue. Maybe the issue is not that they don't do it, but the issue is that we work together with the ILA and that sort of traffic improvements and what's happening on the county so that everything sort of makes sense. Sort of what you were suggesting, do we put signs here? I mean, this sort of feels like it's a bigger thing than just an isolated 6th Avenue event. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. Also, Commissioner Simon will explain in the process and introduce me to the right people. But again, I think we sort of dropped the ball on this one. And then the last one was just had explained on, so Commissioner Regalado had a resolution put out during the Autism Awareness Month last month. And it's basically a decal program, and it's to alert police officers and firefighters that someone living with autism might be inside a house. That is a training required, and that's what I was asking Chris in this, where are we at with that? Hopefully we can actually, do you hear me?
Yeah, that's better, thank you.
Part of the program and actually get those decals to be here where residents that require sort of that being placed outside of their homes or their cars can do that. So in the case of an emergency, police officers can recognize that they have to treat, have a special sort of ways to go about that. And that's what the training is for. So hopefully that gets, we get an update from Deputy Chief soon and we see that implemented in the village, because I've received a couple months actually talked about this, and in the past, even before I came to the commission about having issues with kids and how do you go about that being a difficulty. So I thought it was a great program, and hopefully we can, at our, the village with the already neighboring cities that are doing this. And that's.
Can I respond real quickly to what Veronica said? And we all remember what happened in North Miami with a tragic police incident and an autistic person right outside of the village here just a couple of years ago. To your point about being looped in, you're so right. I mean, my goodness, and just imagine what's going on around us right now that we aren't even aware of. Back to what Gage said, how can we find out from Miami Country Day School if there is a board position that we could appoint or a village resident too. So we would have a voice there and an ear. We have an ear and a mouth over there. How can we find that out? I know you said you talked to David Coviello. He's not the authority at Miami Country Day School. Chris, how can we find that out to see if that, such a board position exists that Gage is telling, maybe, I'm assuming Gage is right about that. How can we find that out?
I can reach out to the COO to find out.
That would be great. Thank you, because if that's the case, then maybe we would want to appoint someone to that position. And to your point, Veronica, if that would help an awful lot, right? That's one organization. There's lots of other cities and, whatever, but yeah, okay.
That would be helpful, certainly.
Okay, can I make a motion to approve consent? But when I do it, may I say thank you to Janie, Ashlyn, John Holland, now we can't get rid of him, and Danielle Wolf for offering to help us out with these board positions. So I'll make a motion to approve consent.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I will echo those sentiments. Thank you to all those that have volunteered, and we're looking forward to your contributions. Okay, so that concludes section 9, and we have nothing in section 10, so let's move on to section 11. 11A is our resolution number 2024-12, certifying results of the special election. Mr. Attorney.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village Biscayne Park, Florida, accepting and adopting the certification of the results of the special election of the Village of Biscayne Park, Miami-Dade County, Florida, held April 9, 2024, designating the person newly elected to office and length of term, providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the results of the election.
In a second? Okay.
He seconded himself.
I don't know.
I don't think that's right.
He actually can.
Okay, he can.
He's an decent.
Got confirmation. Okay, any discussion on this other than, congratulations again to the newly appointed commissioner?
Hashtag landslide.
Say thank you and thank you to all the residents. Truly humbled to be out here.
Congrats.
Okay, fantastic. So having concluded discussion on this item, do we have a vote in favor?
Vote on it, yeah.
Sorry?
We have to vote on it?
Yes. Roll, yes. Right? Roll, yes. Yes.
Mayor Groh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
You have 5-0. The item passed.
Wonderful. Okay. Now you're stuck. Okay, having concluded 11A, let's go on to 11B, resolution number 2024-13, adopting the capital improvement plan. Mr. Attorney.
Yes. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park adopting the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2023 through fiscal year 2031, subject to annual review and revision, appropriating the portion of the capital improvement plan for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, authorizing the village manager to do all things necessary, carry out the plan, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Do we have a motion on item 11B? Thank you. Do we have a second? Okay, any discussion on 11B?
Kennedy.
Okay.
Generally speaking, this will be part of the budget prep conversation. Correct.
Yes, so this does not, it doesn't circumvent your procurement codes. So anything that manager's thresholds still apply for any procurement of goods or services or work. Yes, so any changes are approved by via resolution. Correct.
Okay, are there any other discussion points on this resolution?
Chris, as we go through this living document, is there any plan in place for updating it when assumed grant funding comes available? Is it just going to be per item, or is it going to be monthly, quarterly? What is the plan for updating the living document for things like that?
With the, I've already had conversations with the grant writers regarding the CIP. They're looking out for those opportunities as funds become available. If it is in the CIP, we can move forward with the grant application. However, if the amount is $10,000 or more, I do have to come before the commission, even if it's fully funded by grant, I still have to come before the commission to get approval to spend the funds.
And the grant, if I may, Mr. Mayor, the grants will generally require commission approval as well, so the grant agreements. And most of those grants will also require, as the manager said, that the village follow its own procurement process.
Okay, great. Any other discussion items on the resolution? Okay. Well, having had the pickleball question answered earlier, that was my only question for an update, but I think we've passed that. Okay, so, Madam Clerk, can we get a vote for this one, please?
Mayor Groff,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0.
Hallelujah. Now we can start getting some stuff done.
Good to hear.
Minutes.
All right, well, we're making good progress, so let's keep it going. So discussion of old business is next. However, in the amended agenda, we wanted to take up 13A. So let's go ahead and move into the discussion of our new business, item 13A, the Village Health Insurance Benefit. And Mr. Manager, if this being your item, would you mind introducing it for us? And
Yeah, I'll give a brief introduction, and then we do have Maureen from EBS, our benefits advisor / broker in the Zoom meeting. So essentially what's happening is our plan is up. We need to renew our insurance plan for June. What we've learned through EBS is that costs have gone up significantly, and it sounds like it's market-wide. It's not just specific to Biscayne Park. So we have several different options, which Maureen can touch on. Essentially, we can decrease the benefits, increase the cost to employees, or we can do what my suggestion is, and that is shift the discussion for the insurance plan, the benefits, to the budget discussion, which is really where it should belong. Because at that point, we can take a look at total costs, we can take a look at total compensation. If we decrease benefits now, that is essentially a de facto pay cut for our employees, as they will have to spend additional funds either for the insurance premium for family, spouse, and whatnot, or spend additional funds due to a decreased, or rather an increased copay or a deductible payment. So my recommendation, before I turn it over to Maureen for a brief explanation, is let's do a stopgap. We have a contingency available. We have additional funds available in our budget. Let's fund these changes just to get us to October. We will have to ask our benefits broker, our advisors, to go out and rebid this, put out a new request for proposal for this contract, for the new contract to take effect October 1. That way there'll be no impact to our employees immediately, and that shifts this conversation to budget time, which is where it belongs on an annual basis. So Maureen, that was kind of a brief introduction. Do you have anything to add?
Sure. Do you all have the new presentation? Or should I just kind of give you an overview of the numbers? Do you want me to do that, Chris? And
Yeah,
kind
if you can give an overview.
Sure. So we bid out the plan every year, as you know. We got a pretty high rate increase. We got a 24% increase from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We looked at AvMed, we looked at NHP, which is United Healthcare company. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of options. Aetna no longer bids on small group. Humana no longer bids on commercial business at all. Cigna does not bid on commercial business for small group. So really, we're renewing with Blue Cross. It's just a matter of what we're renewing with. We have 3 options. One is to renew with the 24% increase, and again, we're only looking at if we're going to renew from June to September 30th, it's going to be about a 16, well, we'll look, I'm going to look at it just through the 12th month period, and then we can adjust what that cost increase would be. So I'm just going to assume that we're doing a 12-month contract, and then if you decide not to do that, we'll do the numbers in a different way. But when we're looking at the renewal and not making any benefit design changes and keeping the contribution the same, you're looking at a $43,000 increase to the employer. And that means the employee will also get impacted by that. But of course, we pay 100% of the single coverage. So the employee single won't see any impact, but the E plus spouse, E plus children and family will also get that 24% increase. And then the next option we have would be to absorb that increase and keep the plan the same. That would increase the employer portion $50,000 or 26.78%. And then the third option would be to change plan designs. We currently have a $2,500 deductible. We would then go to a $3,500 deductible. The cost impact to the village would be $14,000 or 7.61%. And we actually had that plan design before we switched over last year. We got a really great rate increase last year. I know if you probably don't recall, but we got, I think, like 3 or 4% increase. So we rejoiced when we went ahead and changed the deductible from $3,500 to $2,500. And now here we're back to getting this very high rate increase. So then the question is option 1, option 2, or option 3, changing plan designs, $14,000, absorbing the increased $50,000, or keeping everything exactly the same contribution strategy. Now it's being about $46,000.
So the financial impact, if we keep things as they are and shift this conversation to October, so renew from June to October, or June to September rather, would be approximately $16,000. That would be no changes to benefits or no additional charges to employees.
16, did you say?
16.16.
Is this the option 3? Because I see 16 at the end, but it says benefit change, maintain.
No, it's actually, he's changing it from he's making an adjustment because we would not renew in 12 months. We would only renew in October 2024. So it would only be 16,000 because it's June, July, August, September.
Got it. Okay.
Option 3 is for an entire 12 months.
Okay, because that's not clear on here. So I'm looking at the email. I'm sorry, Veronica, were you done? I kind of jumped in there to your point. Okay.
So I just want to understand that the recommendation, or you're feeling comfortable, Chris, with option 2 then, the no benefit change, the village absorbed the costs, and it's only until October.
Correct.
Okay, so
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, sure.
is that a renewal for that short period?
Maureen, would that be considered a renewal for the June through September?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is we're going to do a short plan year. We're going to ask Blue Cross and Blue Shield to bring up another renewal. So we're going to have to start all over again, have an open enrollment. We have to bid the plan back out again. And basically, like within a month, we're back doing this again. And so we would have to have open enrollment and be prepared to do open enrollment for the month of like very early of September for an effective date of October 1. But yes, we would have to go, we're going to get another renewal.
Okay, and what is the effective date? When does the policy lapse?
The effective date, if we do a short plan year, will be October. If we do a full plan year, it goes June 1 all the way until May 31st, 2024. That's our renewal is June 1.
This
So
would
we're
be
going to
June
go
through
through open
September.
enrollment. And
this would
you're
be
saying,
June
yeah,
through September.
that's correct.
So you would, in order to do the renewal effective June 1,
Mhm.
you would have to pass that renewal by resolution. So that would be at the next
Tonight.
commission meeting.
The next commission meeting is after June
It
1.
would be retroactive?
That's why I'm bringing that up. I'm sorry.
How would we do that? How would we do that after the effective
Special
date?
It
commission.
was a special meeting?
Special meeting.
We have the enrollment meeting has to be, we really don't have time to push this off because we have to have employees do open enrollment and give them an opportunity to make changes. So our open enrollment meeting is on Thursday.
This Thursday, 2 days from now.
This Thursday, it's a June 1 effective date.
Okay, may I ask a couple of questions, please? So first of all, Maureen, hi, it's Matt Kennedy. We meet once a year and you have to re-explain insurance to me.
That's
So-
fine.
So my first question is, I remember the first year I was a commissioner, this happened, and we're always backed into a corner and like scrambling to make a decision really fast before everyone's health insurance expires. And I said, why don't we have this expire at the end of the fiscal year and have it all nice and neat? And I was told that was not possible or was not advisable because of how things would then, we would start a new fiscal year and the rates might increase partway through the year. Do you remember that conversation? Paul Winklejohn
Yeah,
was there as well.
we had that conversation last year and it wasn't advisable because we got such a low rate increase and we decided to hang on to that rate increase for 12 months. We didn't want to risk getting hit with a large rate increase 3 months later. So the
Okay.
only reason why we didn't make that change last year was because we were rejoicing in a fabulous low rate and we were able to bring down the benefit design or reduce the deductible. So we wanted to lock that in for 12 months. So that's the
Okay.
only reason why we didn't do it. And the other problem we have is you guys skip a date, which is, you do the every 2 weeks, and there isn't a date, because we had this all wrapped up at the beginning of April, but there's a date that's missed. So then we have to wait until this one. So we can't do the 2 meetings to give you an opportunity to look at this another time. So it's just for some reason you don't have a scheduled meeting in the last Tuesday of April.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. That
Sure.
leads me to my second question, which is if we were to do basically a short-term policy that expires at the end of September, we are assuming some amount of risk that we might end up getting worse quotes by then because you can't
Absolutely.
anticipate. Yeah, so this is, we're not guaranteed. What we're saying is we do a short term now. We align this with our budget cycle. And we hope that Maureen finds us a plan that's equal or better than the one we have. And there's no guarantee to this. That's one of my hangups on this is because I look at the third option. I'm looking at the options. Chris, I'm looking at the option that you emailed to us right at 6 o'clock, right when the meeting started, guys. I don't know if you saw your email, but he sent us a new version of this. So I was skimming it, trying to understand, and I was listening to you, Maureen. The explanations here are a little difficult to follow. The third option is renewing and making no changes, and that's only a 7.61% increase.
No, it's option 3 is renewing with Blue Cross,
Yep.
changing the deductible from 2,500 to 3,500 in order to get the rates down. So
Oh,
we're
'cause it
making a
says
benefit.
here, I'm
That's the,
confused.
look, I just want to explain, there was the incorrect, Chris and I did at least 3 versions of this, back and forth, back and forth. You all got the wrong version, which was version 2. You should have got version 3. And we sent at 6 o'clock version 3, which is option 1, option 2, option 3, which is why I rambled through this because I assumed you might not have the correct version. So option 3 is a $14,000 increase with a $3,500 deductible.
Okay.
That's a 7.61% increase. That is option 3. If you don't have that, maybe someone can send that over to you.
No, I'm looking at it. It's in the email that Chris sent us. When I was looking at the version that I prepared, that I was studying for this meeting, that's why I was confused.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're saying-
out the door. That's
Okay,
incorrect.
so now I'm looking at the correct one, and here's
Yep.
what it says. It says option 3, the following is the financial impact of renewing with Florida Blue and making no changes to the benefits and maintaining the current contribution strategy. That
We
makes
are-
it sound like nothing's changing, but you're
That
saying
again, the
deductible
memo,
is changing.
the memo's incorrect. That was a completely incorrect version and both of them was sent I didn't know that that was sent incorrectly. Those were incorrect. Both of them are old. The new versions were emailed at 6 o'clock. The
Okay, but
memo,
I just opened up the one that was sent at 6 o'clock, and that's what I'm looking at, aren't I?
if it says that, then there should be 3 versions on the correct memo.
There
There
are.
is,
The other ones only had 2 versions, correct?
that's incorrect, right? Option 3 is plan design change.
Okay, but the version that we got to prepare for this meeting had 2 options, correct?
That is correct, and
Now
that
the-
is incorrect. That's out, that was a completely incorrect.
Okay, I understand, but now
Yeah.
you're telling me that the version that was just emailed to us has 3 options on it, and that's the correct one. Well, I just read from it. And that's what I just read to you, and you said that's incorrect. It says financial impact of option 3. I'm reading it.
Yeah,
The following is the financial impact of renewing with Florida Blue and making no changes to the benefits and maintaining the current contribution strategy. You just said that's incorrect, but I'm reading it on the version that we just got
I'm
emailed.
gonna look at it right now. Just give me 5
Oh my
seconds.
God, this is so painful when we do this.
You're reading which page from the last?
Yeah, option 3 is to make a plan design change as I've described. That is not, is incorrect. It's to make a plan design change is option 3. That's how you're getting down to a $14,000 increase.
So in other words, what we're reading is not correct on this. Option 3.
That is right.
The numbers are correct and the percentage are correct, but what the impact is to the employee and the village is incorrect.
The impact to the village is $14,000. I don't know what's going on here.
I'm working on getting the actual email up here in Zoom.
Okay, but I'm just making that correction right now. On page 6, there is a change to the benefits. That's how we're getting to $14,000 increase.
It says benefit change. It says option 3, benefit change, maintain contribution strategy.
It says no
Correct.
changes to the benefits.
I'm going to say this again, on the third option, in order to get to $14,000 increase, that is a benefit change. We're going to a $3,500 deductible for option 3. That's how we get to
Are
$14,000.
you guys seeing what I'm seeing? I feel like I'm nuts
Because
here.
I have it.
The email that Chris just sent to
I
us
see
at
what
6
you're
o'clock.
saying. You're saying, but I think Maureen, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're saying is that it does read that, Vice Mayor, you're right. Because I'm reading it too, but I think what she's saying is that's just not it's basically a
Incorrect.
typo. What they mean is that it's not a continuation of the
we-
exact same benefit plan.
It's a big typo because it says
Yeah,
no
well-
changes to benefits and there are changes to benefits.
But what she's saying, I think, again, Maureen, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. The change to the benefit of our option 3 is simply increasing the deductible, so it's increasing the responsibility of the insured. Correct?
It's exactly, the employee will pay a $3,500 deductible versus $2,500. If you look at the calculation sheet, the numbers, you'll see, can you refer to the calculation sheet?
Are you talking about page 6 of that PDF?
We're gonna go to page, if we're focusing on making a plan design change and a $14,000 increase, you're gonna look at option 3, and it says benefit change and maintain the contribution strategy, and it's $14,000. That is the correct verbiage. That should be in the memo.
I have it. I have it on the last file.
Okay, so it's correct on the spreadsheet, it's incorrect on the memo.
That is correct.
Okay.
I see it.
I'm reading the memo, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Looks like page
Okay.
6.
That was
So
like,
back,
what-
so back to it. Okay, so back to it.
Okay.
Now let me get back to the original document here.
So maybe we just want to focus on the because it's really the numbers we want to look at. And I think it's probably better to look at the calculation sheet that you can actually look at the numbers. So if you look down here at the yellow, that's going to show your employer impact. And then the blue and the pink is going to show your payroll deduction differences.
And this is if we renew now for a full year. So
Correct.
this
All
says
of,
renew
all
for
of
a
these,
full year, and the only change to the employees is it goes up from a $2,500 annual deductible to a $3,500 annual deductible. And this will cost the village an additional 14,000 and change. None of that is passed on to the employee because we don't charge them, they don't pay they don't pay a premium for their insurance here in the village for single
That is correct.
people. Okay.
That's correct. Just the E plus spouse, see, we have, let's
That's
see,
a whole different
2
animal. Yeah.
children, 1 family. So 3 employees will get a 7.8% increase.
And how much would that be dollar wise to them?
If you look at the blue, you see the blue and the pink? So we're gonna go from, 3, I'm getting a little closer here. So we're gonna go from 318 to 342 for E plus spouse, 265 to 285 for E children, and then 620 to 667 for family.
And the number of people in each of those categories is off in the green section under current employee.
Right, yep,
count.
right here, current
So
employee
in other
count.
words, we have 17 employees that don't pay anything now for their insurance and they will continue to pay nothing. We have 0 people that are E plus whatever the next one is.
That's correct.
Then we have a total of 3 that would see any kind of an increase. And their increase would be anywhere between about $20 to about $40 per pay period, depending on how many people are in their family.
That is correct.
Okay. Do you think, Maureen, that you're going to do any better than this if we sort of punt and come back and try this again? We have to do this like that, guys, to get it done again for October. Do you think you're going to do much better than this?
No,
Then why are we even considering doing something short term? And I don't ask that to be a jerk. I'm asking like really then what, Maureen, why would we consider doing a short term plan if you don't think you're going to do any better than this and we could be done with this for another year?
I'm assuming
Commissioner,
it is
If I can
to,
interrupt 1 second, sorry.
Sure.
There are additional options. Commissioner Huntington, do you want to?
Yeah, I will touch on that. I've did a little research on this. What a lot of other municipalities are doing is they're entering into health trusts with other municipalities. The Florida League of Cities actually hosts one themselves where they have throughout the entire state of Florida, different municipalities that enter into it. They become a bigger entity. They negotiate better rates because you're not just talking about 22 employees. Now you're talking about potentially thousands of employees. There's also been municipalities who have started their own health trusts very successfully, adding benefits to their employees. They continue on if they retire, their costs don't go up for retirees. Personally, in my personal family, our personal health trust, we've added fertility treatments, LASIK, things like that. There are other options that aren't included in this that we should really be looking at. Health trusts are something that it's statewide where municipalities are going towards, and it's really helped a lot of municipalities regulate their costs, and the employees regulate their co-pays and things like that and add
Are
benefits.
you saying that's something we might be able to pull off to get it done for October 1?
Put a short-term plan in place. It's something we could look into for.
We had talked about that before and then it never happened. Art, do you remember why? Yeah, we had talked about it before and looked into it and it wasn't feasible. Maureen, do you remember why?
we have looked at Florida League annually, and each year they decline to quote because it's not cost effective. There may be other trusts that I don't know about, which we discussed. Chris and I talked about it, and he obviously is very concerned about the cost of the health insurance in the small group market, which is completely understandable. If there's something else out there for you all, you should consider it. But Florida League is not one of the options for you. They will not bring on
They won't even quote.
They won't quote, no. We've asked them every year and they won't. It's just not cost effective for them to bring you in.
Because the bottom line is we only have 20 people who even use our health insurance here. 17 of them are single users and they pay nothing. I pay for my health insurance at work and every year it goes up by leaps and bounds and my benefits get worse. So it's kind of the fact of life. So I pay for it. I'm used to paying for it. I think most people do. So
Right.
we have 20 people on this, 17 of them pay nothing. They will continue to pay nothing. We'll have a very small rate increase that the village absorbs for a year. It's $14,000 for a year instead of $16,000 for 4 months. Because 16,000 on 4 months comes to like 50 grand a year, right? If my math is right. So
That's correct.
this is a little hit. This is a $14,000 hit that we get to stretch across an entire year. And Ryan, to your point, in that year, that sounds like maybe that would give us time to really do some investigation and go out there and see what we can do rather than, oh my God, we got to go. We have budget season to get, this is the reality, budget season to get through. We have to set millage rate. We have to do the solid waste thing. We have all these extra special meetings. Staff is bombarded with all of this stuff. We just pulled the trigger on a CIP that Chris is all excited to get going on, and now we're going to throw this on them. I feel, this is just my opinion, this seems like a really nice, reasonable, easy thing to do, to take a $14,000 hit and spread it across a year and give ourselves a year to figure something out.
Yeah, I think that with the timeline, it's concerning that we don't know what to expect come.
It could be worse.
Exactly. And then, so I like the idea of, doing it and then having more time to explore the options that Ryan brought up. Because it's just too scary to get to October 1st.
Because we've been through the June to October stretch.
Yeah.
It's rough.
So I do want to clarify, just to make sure we're on the same page. Maureen, this is the increase from 2,500 to 3,500 deductible, correct?
Correct.
So that's essentially, I don't know, $90 a month roughly for employees. That's going to be that pay cut. They'll have to come up with an additional $90, what works out to be about $90 a month to cover that extra deductible.
Well, it's not exactly.
It's not that there's no cost. It's just that it's now going to come out of employees differently. I just want to make sure that
I
that's
don't
on the
think that's a
table.
fair characterization, Chris. It's $90 on average per month potential. Maureen, do you know how many of our employees max out on their deductible? If they don't
Well, I
max out on
think
their
he's talking
deductible,
about
they
is
don't
the
use
payroll
insurance, then they're not
deduction.
using any of it.
I think Chris is referring to the payroll deduction.
I was talking about the increase annual deductible.
Their
So
deductible.
instead of employees.
Oh, you're
having to
talking
come up
about the
with
deductible?
2,500, yeah. Instead of employees having to be responsible for 2,500, they'd now have to be responsible for 3,500, which is that $1,000 difference, which is, roughly 90 a
If they
month.
use their.
If you work it out that way.
If they use it, Chris, it's not, you're making it sound like it's $90 is going to be taken out of their paycheck. It's not. It's if they use their insurance and they get to that limit. So it's the deductible changes. It's not a charge to them. It's deductible that they have to meet.
And the deductible isn't applying for every service, but it's for the major stuff. I mean, it will come into play, but
Exactly.
it's
So
not
it's-
for,
For doctor's office visits and
that's,
prescriptions,
you're not gonna
right?
have the deductible, yeah.
Exactly.
Maureen, can I ask you a question? Aside from the obvious of having the benefit of a full year, calendar year to investigate the additional trust options, aside from the obvious of having 12 months to do that versus however more we have until October, 5 months, is there any expectation from you or any estimate that you could provide that you feel that that's an actual viable option that could be found in the next 12 months? And in further, in addition to that, if you were to say, find something in December, is this something that can change mid-plan, or would we have to wait until the renewal period to enroll? In
As
that?
long as you give plenty of notice, 30-day notice, it should be fine. Like if something comes around and you find some, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's something you absolutely could terminate, do an early termination. It's not like
It's
really.
like car insurance. If I find a plan that's better, I can call Geico and tell them I'm canceling, I'm going to the other one.
Well, you're really signing a 12-month contract.
Yeah. But
So
we could.
you can do it though. Yeah. As long as you give 30-day notice, you can do it. Absolutely.
So then it sounds like that one, we have all the, we're holding all the cards. It's like we're getting a really good rate. There's minimal impact to the employees, no impact for most of them, at least in terms of their payroll deduction. We can have a minute to start exploring. You can start tomorrow, Ryan. Go. And if we find something better, we have a conversation about it. And with Maureen's, advice, we kind of figure it out then. I don't know. That feels a lot more doable to me, guys, than us taking a $16,000 hit in a couple of months as opposed to $14,000 for a year.
I have a question in terms of where would the money come from, Chris? You said you had some funds that could cover it. Is this from the administration budget?
Yeah, that's what I was just pulling up now. We have a $22,000 contingency that we haven't touched. And the latest financials show approximately $100,000 in savings in the admin budget. So we have roughly $122,000 that we could put.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. So the contingency quadruple, in essence.
Yes.
So that is good news because that would take the hit.
Correct.
if we do the $14,000 option, I just did some quick math. Maureen, back me up on this. We have people in the audience who are better at math than I am. If we do the $14,000 across 4 months, we're still going to have to come up with some extra money here for June, July, August, and September to get us through the fiscal year. That would come to like $4,700, let's say, that we have to come up with, as opposed to coming up with $16,000 extra dollars in that same period of time, because then effective October 1 with our new budget, we will budget for it for the rest of the year, and we won't have to dip into our contingency because it will be part of the budget. Is that correct, Maureen?
Mhm.
No?
Yes.
Okay. So in essence, this $14,000 hit is only a $4,700 hit to this current fiscal year. And then, guys, we plan for it for October 1 and we're golden. Yep. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer too.
Is that a motion that I hear?
I make a motion that we accept option number 3 and make it effective June 1 for a full year, and that we assign Commissioner Huntington to go find us a better plan. I pulled that last part. That last part was a joke, Brad. Do you want me to say the whole thing again? I make a motion, we accept option 3.
Adding, because you have to pass this by resolution. So are we adding
Can we do a verbal resolution?
that?
Can I make it a motion to pass a resolution and just make it verbal now, and then you guys tie it up on the back end?
You have to- Somebody have to make a motion to add it to the agenda because it was never added.
I make a motion that we add this item to the agenda as a resolution. Do I have a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, okay.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion that we pass this as a resolution using option number 3 with an effective date of June 1st for our new insurance plan for our employees.
Do we have a second on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. So, Brad, if I could just get some clarification on you for process, you'll bring that resolution, you'll write the resolution.
I'll draft it. I'll draft it tomorrow.
Okay.
Or the next day, so you'll have it. I'll send it to the Madam Clerk so she can get it to you for execution.
Okay.
The only thing I do need is I don't have those options. Need that, send me that email.
Okay.
You want me to forward it to you? I have it
Please.
pulled up right here. Forward it to you right now.
I apologize for all the confusion with the option 1 and 2, and then the option 1, 2, 3. Apologize for all that.
Thank you, Maureen, for your help.
Thanks, Maureen.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Two. Okay, so that concludes item 13A. So let's go ahead and get back into item 12, which is discussion of old business as amended, which is 12A through E. So let's go ahead and get started with item 12A. Commissioner Amsler, this is your item.
Thank you. It feels like it was 6 months ago. Sort of was.
It was.
Pretty close.
January 24th. Okay, so, but, I think we spoke about this. I feel like I've spoken about this before for some reason. But, so you guys are all aware what SOPs stand for, and this is sort of a back to basics proposal, so making sure that we have a way to ensure that the institutional knowledge gets transferred, that whenever we have new staff, they are trained properly to what we consider as good service and our standards. So I'm not going to go into more detail. I know that, Chris, you've been working on the back end, making sure that this sort of sets in place, and I appreciate your support on making this happen, so that we can have sort of a good point moving forward to also see how we're doing, because the measurement was the missing portion of that as well. You have a way to train people, you have a way to know what needs to improve. So if you can give us an update as to where we stand, and then I'll ask our attorney to sort of speak about how we memorialized, did I say it right? Memorialized the document. So in a way, it sort of has a valid through time validity, right? And a weight that we can recurrently every year go and revise. So I'll leave it up to you, Chris.
Absolutely. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're wondering what our progress is on creating the SOPs?
And where you stand with the SOP right now, this item specifically talked about 2 things and 2 recommendations that I made. Audit which departments currently have SOPs in place and advise if there are any needs to update them. And the second was to build SOPs for the remaining departments. And that was either an option for us to do so or to hire a consultant, understanding that we would need to understand costs. So with that in mind, since we've speaking about for 6 months, I would want to know where we stand.
Absolutely. We've done the audit. There are two departments that have SOPs. One is police and one is code. That's the extent of our current SOPs. So we are in the process of building, it's a two-step process. The first step is actually building the procedures. We just had our department head meeting today, for example, on purchasing procedures. Figuring out what those procedures are. Once we all agree on what those procedures are, then we can codify them, we can create the SOP. So our attorney is currently working with code on their SOPs. We're gonna get those things in line, the code SOPs in line first. We just started the process for getting the purchasing SOPs in line, and we're gonna continue taking those little chunks as we go. So for example, for administration, we're going to have, we're currently working on the purchasing SOPs. Next up is the communications / social media / public information SOPs, and we're going to continue to attack those little pieces as we can. Director Penna heads up Public Works is going to be coming soon, and we're going to go through that same process, analyze our current procedures, make any changes that we need to make. Once we all come to agreement, then we're going to create those SOPs.
I appreciate that. And then I think you put this on your status. If I'm not mistaken, I remember seeing SOPs. So I guess as the month goes by, you give us an update as to what has been sort of updated or kind of brought forward for the attorney to work on his part of legalizing this somehow.
Yeah, there's, Mr. Attorney, there isn't anything for you to do with SOPs, is there?
Not necessarily, to the extent, the extent that they need legal review, if there's an issue, a question, if there's a concern of liability, something of that, I can certainly review the SOPs. What we dealt with code was their actual policies, their policies and procedures.
Yeah.
Which we updated them and brought them up to current law. And also we're working on updating the forms that code enforcement uses, or code compliance, uses when they're out and about on a daily basis. Law enforcement agencies generally have policies as well as standard operating procedures, as well as SOPs. And from a law enforcement perspective, best practices are usually there are annual reviews of your policies and your standard operating procedures to review them for best practices and ensure that there's no updates that are needed based on new laws being enacted and things of that nature, and just best practices in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Because there's constantly, whether it be technology issues, I know there's a consideration for the use of body cameras. If we were to go to body worn cameras within the department, there would have to be a policy and a procedure on a standard operating procedure, how they'd be used, similar to a license plate reader, how that's going to be used, who's going to have access to the information, things of that nature. They're all, as you're building your technology, your policies and procedures have to track that.
Yeah.
And then same as any other procedure. So yes, I guess this long-winded answer, but for the procedures themselves, I don't really need to have any legal review unless a department has a question that needs legal review or legal answer. Policies, generally some review.
Got it. Perfect. So police and code being the first two departments, you said public works, and do we would have one for building, knowing that we outsource most of it?
Yeah, it's
Probably.
a little muddy. They have their own
Okay.
SOPs. Because Dina is technically ours, it's a little bit muddy.
Okay. Okay. We'll get there. But that was it. I just, again, thank you for making it a priority and throughout this month's, slowly making it. And thanks to Doreen as well, because she was kind of putting me up to date on what she has and sort of what the process is. Yes. Thank you.
Nothing further? Any other
See you
points
guys.
on Commissioner Amsler's item?
Chris, it seems like it's majority of our departments could use SOPs and you're going to work on them. Do you have a timeline or a platform or a plan in place on what you're going to do? You can do each department by month, the 2 months, quarterly? What's your timeline to get through all the departments?
My goal is to have them all done by the end of the calendar. However, with that said, we have nothing in place at this point. That's just a guess. We may be able to get through them quicker. We may get stuck on some things that are going to drag out into next calendar. But the goal is December 31st.
Quick question. Is there any benefit, Chris, to you getting copies of these documents from other municipalities? They're all public record? Or is everything so specific to a municipality and whatever software you're using and the kind of staff and da-da-da? Is there anything to gain from grabbing someone else's code, policies, manual and using it as a framework?
As appropriate, we can reach out for ideas. However, for example, the way we do purchasing is dictated by our ordinances. And the procedure for doing that using GoGov as the app, that's unique to us.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Amsler, and thank you, Mr. Manager. So having concluded 12A, let's move on to 12B, which is root damages on village streets. Commissioner Amsler,
Again. Okay.
catching up.
Yeah. Root damage, let me just pick it out. Okay, so it's just obvious. I think this has been back and forth in the conversations. We've heard residents speak about this to me directly, but also here at the commission meetings, asking sort of what are we doing about these roots, damaging the cars, tripping with when I'm running, or the strollers, or all of the stuff we already know. They're everywhere. And so the recommendation was either implement, so here's the thing of liability. So going back to if I trip and fall, who sort of pays the bill? And that was sort of the back of my concern mainly. I know we all want to see the streets fixed and we all want to see them in great shape again, but we know the CIP we just passed, it kind of hits a different reality. I wanted to understand, I think we have something reserved. I'm not sure. I know we just looked at it, but I was almost sure we had a conversation about at least some reserves to patch or fix some of them. And correct me if I'm wrong. But the idea here is to hear from the attorney as well as what needs to happen in order to minimize this sort of liability. Discuss the effectiveness of our insurance currently, and develop a plan of action. So that will go into the CIP portion.
So in talking without giving anybody a roadmap of how to sue the village, so I just want to be careful on how I put
An SOP for that.
what I say. Yes, I don't need to do plaintiff's lawyer's job for them. But to the extent that there are either sidewalk or road or some other damages that the village is aware of, my suggestion would be if they cannot be somehow cordoned off, and obviously if it's in the middle of a road, there's no way to cordon them off, then they should be marked in some manner so that people are made aware of them. And I would suggest is while we're doing that process is that not only we document that how we're identifying and demarking those areas, that we take photographs or images of them so that there's evidence of it, that until they can be repaired, that there's periodically, we check and document that whatever demarcations we're using are still there. So in other words, it's just a simple example. If you have a pothole or something of that effect, and you put a cone over it, we need to make sure the cone stays there, obviously. You know, somebody hits it, somebody takes it, it needs to be replaced. So that would be the process, and you would document that and continue to document that until ultimately the defect is fixed.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, short of fixing everything in one sweep, which I understand is not a reasonable want or path, then we should be, to the extent that we're aware of these conditions, we should be demarcating, either somehow, as I said, somehow cordoning them off so that individuals can't access them.
Yeah.
Or identify them for individuals so that they're aware of their existence.
Can I ask Juan real quick? I know some of these are marked. I've seen like yellow paint. Is that us identifying that there's, do you know what the reason for the yellow paint is on some of these routes?
I have no idea.
Okay, because on,
Been there for a while. They're spray painted.
yeah, right, so
Public Works did it.
do you know what the
It was
reason?
probably prior to my time, yeah.
Yeah, do you know the reason?
It was because it's the ones, Veronica, on around the
Eighth
rest
Ave?
of the raised sidewalks. Those are the ones I'm.
Yeah, the Eighth Ave is,
Eighth Avenue.
yeah, that's a big one. That's marked yellow, but I'm just curious as to why was it marked yellow?
Safety concerns back in the day. It was like, we're gonna mark these things so people don't trip over them. The rec center is what, I remember asking, I think it was Mario.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay, so is that something that we can do, we should do, we should go back and revisit that?
Anytime we mark anything out there, we have to stay away from yellow or orange because those are gas line and communications cables markings. So if we paint anything out there, it's gonna have to be painted in white to indicate the area.
So is that something that we can do, is identify all of these speed bumps, like Commissioner Kennedy likes to call them? And then, log them and, so that we know where they all are, and I don't know if that's gonna help in any way, but.
Well, we-
Sounds like a good Public Works SOP.
Yeah, we need to inventory them, obviously.
Yeah.
And then depending on the grade of severity, attend to those first. But what I need in order to attend to those is funding.
Right.
And I don't know if there's any funding for that repair this year.
$30,000 is what we have set aside in the CIP.
30?
30.
For what line item?
Road repairs and upgrades.
I'm sorry?
Road repairs and upgrades.
Under the roads, not.
Yeah, so then the other question is, some of these, obviously, these are just giant roots protruding. And, I don't know, I'm not a tree specialist, but,
That's the issue.
then you're gonna have to cut that root to repair that road. And then how's that gonna affect the tree?
You need
Yeah.
an arborist involved in that conversation, because what I was told years ago when I was on Parks and Parkways and we discussed this, that's when I learned about this, is you don't cut the roots out, you slice the roots and decrease the diameter of them. And this is what I was told at a meeting, so
Yeah.
it's not by an authority.
Right, right.
And it actually was an authority. But, yeah, so I have some concerns about this. I understand why you want this addressed, Veronica, I do. But to Art's point a second ago, he's kind of being facetious, but they are natural speed bumps and they do slow people down.
Oh, yeah.
My big fear is the ones on 9th Avenue, right adjacent to the park. If one were to correct them tomorrow, that would be a speedway and we would have people speeding past the parked cars next to our rec center where kids are running around in between cars. I crawl through there. I would anyway. But because of the speed bumps, the tree roots, I don't have a choice and they cross the entire street.
And I agree with you. I
There's
just,
a benefit to them there.
yeah, but I think the separation for me was more about the liability of having.
I understand. I
right?
understand.
So to your point, yeah, the serve purpose, I mean, 8th Avenue too. So, but if, right now, I don't know what insurance coverage is in respect to this, and this would be a question, Chris, for you, but what sort of changes do we need to make to ensure that there is no liability coming our way while we eventually will have a plan to fix them?
And if
I
it's something
think-
like Brad said, I'm sorry, in the painting of stuff, that could kind of like cover our butts in the meantime. Then, to play the other side of my own argument, you're going to have bicyclists in the community like Ezra here, who I'm sure there are streets that you avoid completely because you can't bicycle on those streets because of the routes. You just go over them? Awesome. There aren't even a speed bump to him on his bike.
But ask Brad.
I wouldn't advise using roots as a natural speed bump. And
What I'm saying is,
continuing that,
there's-
because.
especially in that one spot.
No, I know, but the issue, though, without giving a roadmap to somebody that's listening out there, is once you're on notice of these things, you do have some obligation.
Yeah.
Well, I think like Juan mentioned, the bigger problem here is we need to assess our roads, I think, as more of a system than just one individual spot. And next year in our CIP, we're gonna have $200,000 to spend, and we don't really have a plan in place as to how we're gonna spend those funds. I think now is a good time to start talking about planning and studying and cataloging all the different spots we have, because Brad mentioned the ones we know about, but there's probably other ones we don't know about that are out there in the village that could need addressing even more urgently than these? And could that $30,000 be used to fund a study for our roads? So that way, when we enter 2025 fiscal, we have a plan and we're not trying to make that plan up. When time is already ticking in 2025. Now's the time we can start thinking about that and making that plan. So when the funds are available for us, we can hit the ground running.
And so I think there's two things that can be done in parallel. My main concern here and the most urgent I see is that we're not being protected as a village to get something, hopefully, and we knock on wood, nobody has an accident on this. But there's ways for us to go about this, whether it's signage one, whether it's paint, whether it's the app, letting everybody know through a newsletter that we have certain spot that we recognize and to be careful. I think there is a communication on our side to make sure that we are letting everybody know that these are spots to be careful around. Because that sort of would fall into the prevention aspect.
It would help, yes.
So, and then there is a part to your point of what do we do about this, which is what we need to talk about. To your point, there is no plan. So I think the whole inventory, you just said that the idea of an inventory about how our streets are, would be for me step number one. And then you will be the best person to say what goes first.
Sure.
And then suggest that and cost it out, et cetera. But in the meantime, Chris, the question was, how do we move as a next step on our side to sort of put those notifications in places so that people know we're working on it?
One. No, I think the immediate fix, the immediate thing we can do is marking those, whether it's the rough road, bump ahead, whatever those signs are, or paint on those specific areas. In chatting with our insurance carrier, as long as we're taking some action to mitigate those risks, that action can be doing the study, understanding, taking the inventory, and then start the planning process. As long as we're doing something along those lines, then we're covered. Roads are going to fall apart in municipalities. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And rather than paint the whole city graffiti wide, I would say we have enough cones to put a cone at each location, and that way the cone is
A
alerting
reflection of that.
people of a problem there.
Whatever the solution, I think working together in terms of it being communicated so everybody knows what sort of signage is what is the first great step. And then the second, I would say, if there is a plan, as you're suggesting, that we do the inventory on this and then we tackle, we need to sort of understand timeframes as well. And as we're going to get in budget season, I'm sure that's going to be the perfect opportunity to talk about.
Correct.
So budget season's coming up in the next month or so, right?
Couple months.
So maybe,
July, I think, will be our first workshop.
one, is that something that you see feasible to have at least a first sort of scope
Definitely.
and understanding of where we stand with that?
Sure, we'll get it done.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
And just something else to keep in mind on that topic, Pharaoh. The rec center plan is going to address some of these things because some of those sidewalks, according to the plan that we've looked at up to this point, and now we're going to go back and look at it again, involve moving some of those sidewalks.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would automatically take care of some of them. Yep. And we could put up signs that say slow tree roots at play. I don't know.
Something that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Director, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing an update on the inventory. Okay, so having completed our 12B, let's go ahead and move on to 12C of old business, updated meeting procedures. Vice Mayor Kennedy.
So I'm assuming you guys all read my item. It's been on the agenda for the past 4 months or whatever it is. So here we go. Vero, you and I are getting to play catch up tonight. It's like we're cleaning up all the old business. So the topic is meeting procedures. We have procedures, how meetings are run, and it dictates things about noticing and all kinds of good stuff in there. And I want to talk about two specific things. One is the noticing of meetings and the other is public comment. So these things are all included in our meeting procedures. We have, I think we can tighten these up. And this is something that it wouldn't require a resolution, correct, Brad? This is just a procedural thing. We could agree to them and they could be changed.
Oh, it would require a
It would be a resolution, okay. Okay. So regarding the noticing of meetings, if you jump down to the second page, the first page is kind of setting the stage for the topic. There's a section in our code about, or in our policies about the noticing of meetings. What you read in red are the changes that I would like us to discuss, and if you guys agree with me, we could make all or some of those changes. So if you read it, it says, notice, the way it exists now, it says, the noticing of each meeting. That does not technically include special meetings, workshops, and other public meetings that we hold. So it really is only noticing about our regular commission meetings, but we do hold other kinds of meetings, and there's no noticing requirements in there for them. And the amount of time prior to the meetings that things are noticed. This is a complaint I get from residents. Now, recently, things have been better, but our policies, to your earlier topic, Vero, the SOPs, our policies are what would dictate, because I'm always not thinking just what's happening here today. We have these folks in charge. We're feeling really good about who we have. We're up here and we're really working hard. Fast forward 3 years, we don't know, right? So that's why you want to have policies that survive everybody. And there have been examples where policies were used in kind of nefarious ways in the past, and this would tighten up some of that as well. So what I'm suggesting is that instead of noticing 4 days prior, we notice 7 days prior, and that further, we dictate that it's sent out to the current village email list, posted on all social media platforms, in addition to the push notifications on the new village app. But even more importantly, when we're discussing something that's budget related, I think it's really important that we're reaching out to the community as much as we can, because they find out about things after the fact. So I think those workshops and meetings related to the village budget, the millage, and any changes to the village code of ordinances, those are the really big, heavy items that we do. I think they require extra notice. I think they should be re-noticed 4 days before. So, and then emergency meetings will be noticed as required by applicable laws, the village's charter and code of ordinances, and these procedures. So this section right here is just simply saying, further clarify this paragraph to mean more than a regular meeting, which is this commission meeting right now. It's our regular meeting, but it's expanded to include any special meetings, with the exception of emergency meetings as defined elsewhere in this existing policy, because emergencies has to happen now. But it would include regular meetings, special meetings, workshops, and any other public meetings, and that they're published in all the different ways that are dictated 7 days prior, and then anything that's budget or ordinance related, code of ordinance related, would be posted, sent out all the same ways 4 days prior as well. Now, clearly, this would then impact our deadlines to getting things into the village to be included, so there would be an impact. Then all the dates would back up as well. But this is an effort to engage our residents in the meetings, make sure they're aware of the meetings, the topics that are in the meetings, especially the items that are really important to them, anything related to their money, anything related to our code of ordinances, the rules they have to live by here. So why don't we stop there and discuss that one, and then I can go on and discuss the other part of this. There were 2 parts.
I just have one question for you, Vice Mayor, on this.
I'm sorry, Brad, Jonathan, I should say that I ran this past Brad, and he kind of cleaned up some of this for me.
The language of the, okay, got it. So just, I guess the only question I can think of right now. So it just talking about where it's being posted, where it's being published, I guess.
Yeah.
We have Village Hall, email, social media, and then through the app. Is it your intention that these things all be done separately? Because it's my understanding that through the app, these things are all done simultaneously. Because if it's one step versus 6 separate steps.
Oh, I don't care how it happens.
Okay.
If the push notification, you mean sends it to Nextdoor, sends it to Facebook, sends
because
it to Instagram, whatever, as long as it happens, as long as it's there.
Right, so.
That's awesome if one click can make it all happen.
So that's my understanding. My understanding is that when there's a posting through the app, it does go to all those mediums. So I think if it doesn't, I'm sorry?
No, sir. Each is separate. So we currently post on Nextdoor. Depending on the situation, we post an alert on the website, which is an additional. We have the push notifications in the app, which is a third thing. And then the email list through the app is a fourth thing. So they unfortunately don't happen all at once. We have to go into each of those areas to do that notification.
But is it, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to hang this discussion up on process, but I'm just trying to understand the ease of being able to achieve it all at once if possible. If let's say you're going to a post through the app, And do you have like a checkbox or whatever that you can say where this is going to? Or is it just, this is only through the app and then you have to separately go to these separate channels?
The second.
Okay, I'm just curious.
But you could certainly use the same copy. If there's an attachment, use the same attachment.
Kind of like a copy paste onto the separate channels?
To some degree, because the app, I think, is kind of different from what I see on my
They're
end.
different channels, so I'm sure the message for an email will be different than the social post. But I think to your point of, I don't think that's what you're saying. There is no way to click one button and it spreads around. You have to go platform by platform.
Correct. And my recommendation, if we're talking about, for example, posting agendas, the agenda is posted on Granicus on our website. I don't think I have the ability to post a full agenda in the app notifications, for example. The notification would say, agenda posted, here's the link.
So it would be a link, not like an attached.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's fine. When I send it to people, I'm like, yeah, I didn't say anywhere in here that we should be including the full agenda. It's a notice, and the noticing can include the link.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's something that says that, that makes sense. That these things can be published through these mediums by way of link, then
Yeah.
it works.
The only request that I would have as the commission looks at doing this is let's keep consistent business days versus calendar days. I believe everything else is calendar days. I think this proposal says business days. I don't care which it is, but let's just keep it consistent.
If I can, just address that, because I was just noticing that, and I was looking at a former resolution that you all passed back in November of 2023. So that section B that we're talking about regarding notice, originally it said 4 business days, and you all voted to remove business and make it 4 days.
Which by default makes it calendar days.
Correct, which would make it calendar days once you remove it. So you would shorten the time in which the agenda would be published.
Understood. So take out the word business and just have it say, do we leave it say days, or do we make it say calendar days just so it's clear? And in the future, some commission where there are, 7 people up here, 8 people up here, and none of them are us, and they're looking at that and not understanding what it is. I always like things to be clear.
You could put calendar days, but it is understood that if it's not a business day,
Yeah,
the only
it's a
thing that's
calendar
left
day.
is a calendar day. But you can, if that's the desire of the commission.
Okay.
So you're suggesting we go from 4, which is where we currently have it
Mhm.
now, to the 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calendar days,
Yeah.
7 calendar days.
Calendar days. And then,
And just one other thing, and just so we're clear, Madam Clerk has brought up a point that she's correct. When we talk about ordinances, the required notice for an ordinance is 10 days. So we're talking about, this is specifically talking about the publishing or the noticing of the agenda for the meeting, that the ordinance change might, or the new ordinance might be.
Oh, I'm lost. Hold on.
included. So the ordinance is still going to have to be published in accordance with Florida law.
Which is 10 days prior.
you mean where it's published in the Daily Business Review? Yeah, that's separate from this.
Whatever newspaper.
Whatever it is now. Yeah, yeah. I
Right now.
forget that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
So you have by law to do it 10 days prior. That's what you're
So
saying.
the advertisement, let's use the term advertisement for a moment. So the advertisement
Newspaper advertisement.
would come out prior to the agenda itself being noticed.
Which it does now anyway.
It should.
For those ordinance meetings. Pamela, you get that out 10 days prior, and now it's the Herald, I guess. And, yeah, no? Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're
Using
still
that.
hoping that, and I'm gonna check again this week. We're still hoping that the county comes up with their electronic.
Oh, right. There was that option.
Notices, which we're
Okay.
allowed to use.
Okay.
They just don't have one yet in place.
Okay, so do we have consensus on this part of it, and I can move on to the next one?
I have something here. So I want to make sure, because this puts you guys at sort of a different schedule. So for me is, I understand this is what we would like to see. To be honest with you, 4 days is not enough to have an agenda. This is, I think, experience, and that why we're revising it today. Definitely, preparation, you need more time. But when it comes to making sure how it's going to be communicated across all the platforms, there has to be also the understanding that the time that takes and the knowledge of managing the platforms and who's going to do it. So I don't know if you guys have had the chance to really understand what is being requested as a point to being able to deliver it. And so that by next month, we're not getting it 4 days again because, you know, it's impossible due to the workload. So Chris, what's your take on,
Well,
is
Vero,
it-
I'm sorry, that's 4 days to us. This
Yeah,
is
I know.
not to us.
just
Okay.
even as an example?
We received.
But even when it comes to, you know, this is basically mandating the way you're going to be communicating from now on, not only on the, I squeezed that Spanish, but that's what I'm saying. So it's, the platforms are also going to have to be, you know, used the way it's being described. And I understand what the point is here, which is everybody should know, and we have had some issues with this, but is it doable? That's my question. Or is it going to put you guys against the wall in a month because now it looks great on paper, but we're still not going to be able to meet it?
The process that we just put in place includes a schedule based on T-minus days. So if the agenda has to go out on the 10th of the month, we have our department head meeting on the 6th of the month.
Yeah.
We finalize things on the 7th, send it out to the commission on the 8th, make any changes we need on the 9th, and then on the 10th is when it goes public. So whatever date you choose, we'll just back up our procedure, the required number of days to make it happen.
And so that's on the amount of days. Now, in terms of the platforms in which you will communicate, you have the proper understanding of what that means. Who's managing it, how it's going to happen in order to do it. Because I think the app is definitely helping. But it's the app, the Instagram, the Facebook, we have a website and whatever else we might have that I don't know about. So I just want to be fair to ask that question.
Okay, when you're saying putting it on the platform, are you saying putting the agenda on the platform?
No.
Putting the notice?
Notice. There's a meeting, like the the app notifications that went out. When did they go out? Yesterday? They popped up on the app that we're having a meeting tonight. I guess it's the Monday one that we get, which I like because it kind of shows me what's happening for the week. A notice, and if you can include the link, all the better.
Well, it can't have, because the agenda isn't done yet.
Oh, I think what they're asking for is the agenda.
Agenda to be done.
That's why I think you need to not only understanding within the calendar, but also in terms of who does what to see if this can come through. Again, I see it would be great because then we all notified through whatever platform we use. You know, we all do different. Not everybody is on Nextdoor, not everybody is on Facebook or Instagram. But if we have all of them, here's saying you're going to use them all and every month in certain amounts of days. So I just want to understand that you are okay with that, you have the staff to do that, and then we can move forward if we voted yes.
Which ones are you doing now? You're doing the app. You're doing Nextdoor. What other social media platforms are we on?
Instagram, Facebook,
Instagram, yeah.
Nextdoor, the website, the app.
Correct. We keep our main channels are website alerts, calendar, agendas, all on the website. And then we have Nextdoor, the app push notifications, and the app email notifications.
Mhm.
So the commission can set whatever deadline the commission wants to set, and we'll make the process work.
Look, whatever the deadline is, a deadline is an arbitrary thing. You could say it has to be done 2 months before, it still has to get done eventually.
Yeah.
Then everything gets backed up to it, and the next meeting is the same way. So everything is still as evenly, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking to the microphone, and my next item is log cabin microphones. Everything is spaced out in the same increments. It's just the first time is pushed back a little bit, but it's always the same spacing between them. It's a month till the next one, and a month till the next one, and a month till the next one. So they have to get done anyway.
Sounds to me like you're already, if I was understanding what you just said and reading in conjunction with the edits that are being proposed here, it sounds like you're already satisfying them. I mean, maybe not the days, but the channels.
Yeah.
Channels.
Yeah.
It's being satisfied. So this is basically just changing,
Pushing the calendar back.
it's just moving it back
Yeah.
2 days.
Correct. Give us the date that this information needs to be published. back up our days for processing and make it happen.
As long as if we're approving this, as it's been edited to remove the business part of the days? Changing from business days to.
Changing it to calendar days. Okay.
Okay.
Pick up whatever's in red. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me go on to the next one, public comment. So
Yes,
there-
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for just 1 second? In reading some of the red code here, it says, let me back it up here. And posted on all social media platforms for which the village has an official account. I would suggest changing that to all appropriate social media platforms. Instagram, for example, doesn't really lend itself well to official notifications. That's more of the nice to know, warm fuzzy stuff versus something like Nextdoor where we can do that. Just my suggestion.
I'd be fine with
The
that.
word all, put in the
Yeah.
word appropriate.
Okay.
In Instagram, can't you put an image of a flyer or?
When considering posting on social media, you have to also consider the use of that type of social media. Instagram is more for sharing quick little things. It's not really, somebody wouldn't necessarily go to Instagram looking for a full agenda, which would be available on something more like a Nextdoor.
And that there is not a link associated, I think. That
Use links in Instagram anyway. You can't click on links from Instagram posts.
I
I
get
think.
the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so all appropriate.
Okay.
All appropriate social media platforms. Let me add that to my notes.
Okay.
Okay, so the next part of it is, let me save my changes. Okay, the next part of it is public comment. So there are laws, there's sunshine laws about the public having the right to attend a meeting. And we always want to encourage and allow for people to come in and comment on anything. Specifically, our policies say that we allow for public comment at meetings. And it does not, it specifically precludes, it does not include workshops. And this came up recently. There were some people all fired up because they thought they wouldn't be able to speak at a workshop. And this came up. I was attending the meetings back when this happened, when there were prior elected officials that were not allowing public comment at some of the workshops. That they would have workshops and say, no, we don't allow for comment at the workshops unless we want to. I think we need to say that all of our meetings are public. They're welcome. We encourage them to come and participate. And we need to change that to specifically say all meetings and workshops of the commission are open to the public. Public comment will be allowed at all commission workshops, non-voting meetings, following the same guidelines as those used for commission voting meetings. So I'll stop right there before I go on to the next part. But it's simply dictating, right now, we only allow public comment at this meeting and other meetings not, the workshops not. So I just want to make sure that, I know we would never do this. I'm confident this group wouldn't do it, but I don't want people in the future to say like they were in the past, you can't comment at the workshop. We don't want to hear your opinion.
I don't think that it has to do with not hearing an opinion. I think the point of the workshop, and it happens in other villages and it happens in other cities, is that they don't open for comment because a workshop is different than a meeting. Otherwise, you just would say meetings. The purpose of the differentiation is that there is a different concept as to that. It's usually, and we had that, we actually did not post it for open comment when we did our strategic plan, and we were in the public, in the rec center. The reason for that is that it's just a different dynamic. There's nothing to be voted on. It's just a simple conversation for us to have.
Well, there are things you could vote on, but you specifically cannot vote.
Correct.
Cannot vote at a
So-
workshop. So the things are discussed that could be voted on, but a workshop this is a conversation. I just personally believe that.
Let me
any
finish my
that-
point. Let me finish
Okay.
my point. So I see that this is not about quieting anybody, because at the end of the day, everybody has a chance to come to the meetings and vote on anything that is a voting item. It's just a different format that is out there used by many, again, cities, municipalities, and we gave the example of Aventura because they are doing it just in a different way, and that they discuss prior and they present sort of their ideas when it comes to the meeting. They have to listen to what everybody has to say anyhow. So I'm not very into the all or nothing. Is either we let you or we don't. And I think that was a resource, because there are times that might be dependent, like it was in the case of the strategic plan. So for me, there isn't about quieting, and this should not actually make people angry. I think it's just another resource that has been utilized for having a different format sort of prior for the voting on the meetings. So I don't see anything wrong about this. I know the way you made it sound when you said, the group, this is not me trying to quiet anybody. I just see it as an element that exists.
I understand what you're saying.
Just
I do.
to have a different sort of format, that's all.
I hear what you're saying. And I don't think you would ever do it, Vero, but I've sat in Biscayne Park workshops where it happened and where people wanted to say something and they were discussing a topic like, I can't remember, I can specifically remember one at the rec center. But I think we benefit from hearing from residents, and the reality is we're a village of 3,300 residents and we get crowds this size and we limit to how much they can talk anyway. And we benefit from them. There are people that come to these meetings that know a whole lot more about what we discuss than some of us do, me.
Mhm.
I'll freely admit that. And I benefit from their knowledge, and having them at meetings is just helps me do a better work. And I think we should be a community that at every opportunity embraces our residents and wants to pull them in and wants to hear from them. And the reality is not that many of them show up, and we limit them to 3 minutes anyway. So it's not like they get to join us and sit around the table with us and join in the conversation. And now it's not a workshop of 5, it's a workshop of 30. They get to say something, and then they sit down and they watch us do the workshop. I just feel strongly that we should be hugging people into the process all the time. And the reality is, it's not that much.
I'm good with it as long as we do it just like a regular commission meeting where we're allowed folks to speak up initially in the beginning of the meetings and not during the actual workshop.
That's written into the next section.
Then I'm perfectly fine with that.
That's written into the next section.
And listen, the reality is some of the workshops are intended for community input.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you're going to do some yes and some no, so
Yeah.
I have no problem with it as long as
It's in the next section. Okay. Ryan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would agree that we should never silence our residents. And I know it's not about silencing, but we have sometimes a lack of participation in the village with residents. And I would hate for a resident to show up because they're passionate about whatever the item is on the workshop and then get here and find out they can't talk about it. And that would probably put a bad taste in their mouth. They would not come back again. And we should always be encouraging residents. We're blessed. We do have some involved residents, and we should always be encouraged to have more.
Yep, that's a very good point. And they don't know the distinction between, what do you mean this is a workshop and not a meeting? You're here having a meeting. I want to say something. Okay. Sounds like we have agreement on that.
I'm
Next
okay
section.
with that, and I think to Art's point, I think the order in this, and you have it on the next point, right?
Yeah.
Public comment, good, oh, okay. I know.
Yeah, it's the same language as used for the other meetings. So the first, section 3 says, public comment will be allowed at all commission works. It just specifies that. The next section, 13, is where it defines public comment, good and welfare. Any person desiring to address the commission shall first secure the permission, We just changed the language to say, any person to address the commission at any regular commission meeting, special meeting, or workshop. It just clarifies that they're all lumped in together under the same rules that we run here for public comment.
Okay.
That's all it is. And then the last thing is a definition of a workshop, because now we're using the word workshop and it's not defined anywhere in here. Meeting and special meeting, a regular meeting and special meeting are. So I asked Brad and he came up with, he either wrote or found this definition of a workshop is a public meeting of the commission during which information regarding village business may be elicited and issues may be discussed in an informal setting. However, no formal vote on any discussion item may take place during the workshop. The purpose for the workshop must be clearly identified in the agenda, and only the listed agenda items may be discussed. Brad provided that for me.
And that would be added to the definition section, or where is it, or it just sits right there? 'Cause that's a good point that.
In section 1A. That's where you told me to put it, Brad. Read the paragraph above it. It says, I think we should add a definition for workshop, non-voting meeting in section 1A as a final paragraph after the paragraph detailing quasi judicial matters.
So 1A, right, so section 1A speaks of regular meetings, special meetings, quasi judicial matters. So we would put it at the end, right after quasi judicial matters. Explain, just put what a workshop.
So what is appropriate here to make a resolution come back to us? Did you have a comment about something, Jonathan?
I just have two questions, Brad. By adding this language, does that necessarily extend this requirement to any and all hearings including closed hearings, wherein we may not be allowed to take public comment?
So no, so any closed door session that's permissible by the Sunshine Law, and there's only certain delineated ones.
Such that it would ever happen?
They're not.
Well, they will, and I think we'll have one shortly. For instance, we're engaged in collective bargaining negotiations with various unions. And if there is something that the manager feels that either he needs some guidance from the commission with regards to those negotiations and parameters and things of that nature, we're entitled under the Sunshine Law to have a closed door meeting with, would just be the manager, myself, Madam Clerk, and the commission. The public is not allowed in that meeting so that we can discuss.
That's statutory.
It's statutory. It is also it's called a shade session. There's also shade sessions if we're involved in litigation and we want to talk about settlements. Settlement negotiations, we meet privately, not open to the public, where we can discuss those and you can give your legal counsel guidance on parameters of settling litigation. I will just, so the public is aware, those sessions are recorded, and afterwards they become public. So it's not something that's forever held secret, but there's just some integrity issues with regards to that information coming out.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to make sure that it wouldn't impinge on any statutory duties or requirements that we're required to follow. The workshop definition, just very quickly, does it in any way, I know you drafted it, so I know you're intimately familiar with it, but in your position and opinion, does it limit or fundamentally change or alter in any way how we currently conduct workshop sessions? I mean, other than adding the public comment portion to it, of course.
No, not that I can see. It is a fairly, I mean, I wordsmithed it a little bit, but it's a fairly consistent definition of what a workshop meeting is.
Good enough for me?
In other jurisdictions.
Okay.
So what's the step now, Jonathan, to bring this, to have it come back to us as a resolution? Is it kind of a consensus? We all think this is good this way and Brad will work on it and bring it back?
Yes,
That's right.
the consensus is
Okay.
to make these changes to your commission meeting procedures. And I will come forth with a resolution with these attached. And I guess what we should do moving forward is that once, if it's approved by the commission, we should have a clean copy that's created and kept so that just we know exactly what the previous changes were and what the present changes.
Mhm.
We don't have those confusions. Was business in there? Was it not in there?
Yeah.
Something of that.
Okay. So no vote necessary, we're done?
Oh, we got consent. I think we've heard.
Consent now, you're just giving me direction.
Yeah.
So you do that by consent,
Awesome.
and then the vote will be thing done?
Understood. And we have a second chance to discuss it and discuss any changes. Brad, thank you very much. You were really helpful when I worked on this. It seems so long ago. I can't remember.
That's my pleasure.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Thank you, Vice Mayor. So having consensus on that item, let's go ahead to the next item, the log cabin audio, please.
Okay. I think we can all agree that we have a problem. Exactly, Art. Thank you very much.
That
Oh, I
was
just
intentional.
Fed you the line. That was intentional. Yeah. Okay, so guys, we got issues in this room. It's bad, and it's bad enough in this room when you're here attending the meeting. I can't hear you guys. I'm in a meeting with you, and I sit over here on this end so I can see you and try to follow better. All you have to do is turn your head, and I can't hear you. No one can hear you. People in the room can't hear you. People live streaming can't hear you. I get text messages, I can't hear you, and they don't know what we're talking about. And then I refer back to the videos. I don't watch every meeting in its entirety, but I will refer back to nearly every meeting and workshop that we have that's recorded to go back and listen to make sure I understood something. I have my notes that I keep, but I do my, my homework to prepare for the next meeting. And I go back and listen and I can't hear what's going on. So I'll listen to things and Vero said something that sounded really good and we all agreed with it and I don't know what she said. And it's wrong and my notes are ambiguous. So it's like, it's bad. So we need to fix it. So I don't need to go on anymore about the problem. We got a problem and we need to fix it. So I'm all ears about what you think we should do. This is a disaster, by the way. How much time do we waste in a given meeting? I can't hear you and talk into the microphone. Can someone change the batteries? It's off, turn it back on. Who knows how to do it? Where are the batteries? It's absurd. I mean, it's like we're running kindergartens are run better than that thing. So we got a problem over there and we got a problem up here. What's the solution? I have sat on plenty of panels in my career where I had a lavalier mic right here and you kind of can't get away from it. Because no matter where you go, that thing is picking up what you're saying and they worked really well. They're battery operated things. You have to be careful if you go in the bathroom because your mic's on, unless you turn your mic off. So I am not presenting a hard and fast recommendation here. I think Chris has some suggestions, and I hope you guys came with some suggestions as well. But the problem has to be fixed. It's absurd, and we're not properly recording things. We're not keeping record properly. I think we probably could find ourselves in some legal, predicaments because of what's not happening well in this room. And it's not just us; it's other board meetings as well. Code compliance and P&Z planning board use the same mics. So thoughts, comments, suggestions?
Oh, I think, first of all, the mics have to be, you have to have the capabilities, at least the ones up here, to turn them on and turn them off. Can't have something that's on at all times.
They click on and off.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The big issue with these mics is not the mics themselves, it's the people utilizing the mics. And that's a problem. So I can't fix.
That you're not going to fix.
I can fix a mic, but I can't fix a person that doesn't know how to speak into a mic.
No.
Or turn them on and turn them off, which you and I have seen that quite often, right? So I don't think these are so much of an issue for me. I talk into the mic, I turn it on, I turn it off. The big issue is that particular mic. That's an issue and I think that should be an easy fix. It may require a cable to be connected so that we don't have to use batteries. I don't know. But for me, these mics work fine. I think it's a people problem. It's not a mic problem.
Right, but we have to solve the problem. How are we going to solve the people problem?
Well, you're gonna have to, so what are you gonna have? You're gonna give them a mic that's live all the time? That's all the time live? They're still gonna have to click a button, Mac. They're gonna still have to click a button. If they can't click this button, then what makes you think they're gonna click that button?
But you can't get away from here. As soon as I lean back like this now.
But why are you leaning back? Lean forward and speak in the mic. I'm just saying, it's a.
Fix it all up. But anyway, I'm listening to you.
Okay, I'm just
Do you
saying,
think
I just don't think that this is an issue. For me, this is not an issue. It's a person issue. It's a people issue. And I can't fix people. That's an issue. To me, this to me is not an issue, but if I'm open to suggestions, I don't.
I think I agree. This mics work. It's just getting used to it and remember that we all have to speak close to the mic. Not just us, but the boards as well when they meet. I mean, there's that. I actually love the idea that this can move up and down so easily instead of having that, people need to grab it with their hand. You're using a hand, maybe you didn't need. So it's. I think if we could have something like that at the podium where people.
We run a wire and
speak,
put one of those things that go
could solve
across it?
maybe the issue.
Yeah.
I think the minimum is.
Doable?
And the
Chris?
podium's
No,
not
that's
mobile.
fine.
We move at meetings, sometimes at meetings, sometimes we move the podium.
To answer your question, yes, I would assume it's doable. The connection for a wireless mic should be the same as the connection for another mic. It's just an XLR cable. Running the wires would be the challenge. We could do something like we have over here now where it's that rubber mat. But then the podium would not be movable.
Wouldn't be mobile.
Mm. Yeah, and can we have a mobile one should we need it? Because the truth is, people when come, they speak from there. Very few times I've seen the mic needed passed on.
Yeah.
So we could have a option B mic that is turned off on the side, a wireless, and then we can pass it as needed. But as soon as
Your Public Works Director would like to chime in, if
you like it.
could, please.
You like it.
Lean in and speak clearly.
We could wire a hard wire to this area that'll hang during meetings on a regular mic, you connect it. That way this mic will always be a portable mic. And when we're not in use, we could disconnect it.
Oh, clever.
See?
See?
That's why you're here.
Can we get one?
Exactly. In this corner.
However, I would stay away from lavalier mics. They're very expensive and very sensitive.
Okay, so drop a wire, and then if there was extra wire up there, if there was a reason to have the podium somewhere else, we could possibly even sort of run the wire, throw it over another rafter and drop it down there. Okay, well, at least that solves that problem.
Why don't we start with that?
Yeah.
What do we do about us?
Gotta-
Solve
Before
the
you
people
jump into
problem.
that, let me just put a huge asterisk on that.
Okay.
That's just making sure that we do have the available connections. So that's certainly something that we can explore, but I'm not going to guarantee that that's something we can do. We may have to do some changes to our AMP.
So two things on that point then, I guess. One would be determining whether we have the ability to do it without an increased and significant changing cost to outfitting the whole system. And I guess two, to the director's point, is how much those lapel mics or individual mics would cost. So it's
So-
like it's like a two.
Get a price at least?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. It's a two-factor analysis here that we don't have the information for the cost for those mics and two, the capabilities to implement them.
To the lapel mic point, I've already had conversations with a few different meeting technology vendors. And in our current setup, a lapel mic is not advisable because of the feedback. Every surface in here is a hard surface. And for the lapel mic to be loud enough to pick up voice, it has to be turned up high enough that it's going to pick up feedback. It's the difference between sitting this close to the microphone and being able to sit this far back. So it has to be turned way up. So we can certainly get a price on that. The price for the cable and everything else, and the additional microphone should be fairly insignificant.
De minimis. Sorry.
Chris, is it worth asking our vendors if there's a mic they suggest and we could actually get one as a trial basis to try it at a couple meetings? A loaner mic, if you will, just to try it out. And I'm sure if we like it and we go with it, we will purchase more of them.
You mean for up here or over there?
Or both. If they're a vendor willing to sell microphones, maybe they have one they suggest that they would loan to us as a loaner item, where we could try at a meeting, try it out, say, yeah, this works, and we go forward with the purchase of more of them.
So I'll have to consult with our attorney on that. If we end up replacing all the microphones up here, it will exceed the $2,500 that under which we can do basically no additional bids, no additional quotes. I would anticipate if we do look at changing multiple microphones out, we're going to be approaching $8,000 to $10,000.
So if you were going to do that, you would have to put it out to bid for companies to come in and give you a trial. And you would have to be able to, the benefit of that is you would be able to use different mics from different companies or different providers. And then you could ultimately make a choice through that. You'd have to have some kind of a committee to evaluate it and do it through that process. And then ultimately we would have to come back to the commission for approval of it.
And then I ask you this every time, Brad, when you put an RFP out, you're not obligated to hire any of them. You can
Nope.
say, we canceled the project.
You can do an RFP or an RFP, request for bids, and then withdraw it and say we're not moving
We're
forward.
not going to do it. So and then the RFP or B or Q, and there's a bunch of different ones. It could be written in there that you have to come give us a setup and let us try it before we buy it.
Yes, so you would put it out, and as one of the conditions is that there is going to be a, whatever, 2-meeting trial run, and it's going to be approval by the village of the product before any purchase. So you could do it as, you could do it two ways. You could do it that way, where you put an RFP out and you see the products, you make it a condition of the bid that they're able to let us do a T&E of the products, trial and error of the products for a period of time, whatever that period of time is. And then you will select a vendor as a result of the T&E process. You can put out an RFP just for a trial for where vendors will come to you and lend you or give you
No.
their product, and then you evaluate it, and then you do and you ask
Got
them
it.
to put another bid in. I mean, there's different ways to do it.
Let me
Guys-
ask you, so just in terms of that, so that is if we exceeded the $2,500 and there was a need for a bid.
So if it's under, the, I'm drawing a blank, under the $2,500 does not require any quote. If it's between $2,500 and $10,000, manager, oops, see, tapping the table. The manager does have the authority to purchase without coming before the commission. However, he needs to get 3 quotes. Anything over $10,000 has to come to the commission for approval, and he needs to do bids. He has to do 3 bids.
So I think for me, again, this is an issue, isn't the issue is just that microphone over there. I don't think that should be more than $2,500 anyhow. Right?
You mean that?
Yeah,
I wouldn't hope so.
yeah, please. And that I think would fix the issue.
Yeah, so is that whole bid thing, I think you and I are in agreement here, is that whole bid thing more fuss than it's worth in the end? Is it for the gain? And worry about that for now?
I think that's where we should start. I think we should start with that. I would be interested in knowing whether our current system could even be adapted to take different wireless microphone systems, because that, to me, that's a threshold issue. If we're talking about replacing the entire system, I think it's a much larger conversation.
Microphones are completely interchangeable. If we have an existing wireless setup, we can change it out for a different wireless, the same thing with wired. The question I have is, we actually have multiple wireless, all within the same receiver that plug into the box. I just have to make sure that we have enough plugs to be able to keep that existing wireless and add an additional wired. So that's what I just have to check out in our.
Maybe we just start with that, then maybe.
Why don't we do that?
We do by motion, by consensus, sounds like we already have it to have
Yep.
Yeah.
this replaced and make it wired, make it more accessible and better. And then, Chris, if you could look into our current infrastructure audio systems to see how that might look.
Is it the intention of the commission that if we are able to immediately obtain a wired microphone to go ahead and do that, provided it's under
For the
Here.
podium?
the podium?
Yeah, I think it needs help.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Maybe we should look into see if there's a system that anytime someone's not speaking directly into their microphone, you get shocked.
Yeah,
so that goes.
smack in the back of the head.
Well, I
Exactly.
took Commissioner Gonzalez's heat, and I'm leaning in and making
Mhm.
sure everybody can hear me. so.
Brad, it's often you I don't hear on the.
I know that. That's
Often
why
you.
because
I call you sometimes and say, what?
well, I lean back. I do lean back. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to make sure I'm leaning forward. It's bad for my posture, but I'll do it.
Okay, well, it sounds
Okay.
like we've got.
Thank you guys for hearing me out on that. So we'll solve that problem.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, so we are on to our last item, which is, well, last item in old business, which is the manager post-evaluation plan. And Mr. Manager, this is your item, so if you want to introduce it to us and give us whatever information you'd like.
Absolutely. After the manager evaluation, I took the feedback and went and created the manager evaluation feedback and plan. Basically, the 2 main areas that were identified as needing enhancement were communications and reporting. So what I did was create this plan to address those 2 areas. The first part of the plan is just kind of the summary of the things that we had discussed during the manager evaluation. And then the next sections are actually a rough timeline for when things are going to be improved and what that's going to look like. So for example, taking a look at communications, my communications focus was during March and April of 2024. It talks a little bit about using Nextdoor as a strategy, the app and email strategy, the different distribution lists, and so on. I did not wait for this to come to the commission prior to starting to take action. So as you can see, we've already started using the application and better utilizing Nextdoor for communications. Reporting is the next topic, and that's going to be in May and June. Those are 2 months I'm going to focus on reporting and getting these things squared away to the satisfaction of the commission, everything from the manager's report to the department's reports and so on. Once that's done in June, then starting in July, we're going to work on more of a change management framework because there are many additional changes that we need to make. Change management includes things like involving or informing the community when we're making website changes or when we're making changes to the communications plan and whatnot. So this is basically just a rough timeline of what I'm going to be working on each individual area that was identified as a focus area during my performance review, completing everything by the end of my first year, which is August 14th. With that, I'll open up to any questions that you may have.
Should we just make that the end of the fiscal year since it's just a month later and give you a month to get stuff done? And that way we're always talking fiscal years and we do your evaluations in September? Yeah.
I'd have to double check. I want to say
we
that
do. I think we do.
it's due in October, the eval.
I'm looking, give me a moment.
It's up to the commission to
I
make.
mean, it just seems so tight, Chris. We're in May, June, July, August. It's 3.5 months to try to get all this stuff done. If we give you an extra, I always like things just sort of hitting on the same date. End of the fiscal, everything kind of stops and we start fresh.
Seems fine. I mean, subject to what we're gonna hear from Brad. So go ahead, Brad, dig through the
It's in his
contract
con-
on the spot and find him.
While Brad's looking, can I mention talk about a couple of things real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so, regarding the app. So I love the app. I have a little bit of a challenge with the app myself. Chris, I think it might be a setting on my phone. I can't do on my phone.
A request or?
Yeah, I can't do a request. Do you have the same problem? Oh, okay, because I can fill it all out, but the submit button is halfway off the bottom of the screen and I can't slide up to get to it. And I tried it on Dan's phone too, and the same thing happened.
I'm gonna lean back on my extensive IT experience.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding you. I worked for a software company that had apps and the solution was go ahead and delete it and reinstall it.
Oh,
And I'm
really?
telling you like
Is that the
9 times
high-tech
out of 10 it
solution?
worked.
Okay, I'll do that. I will
It's
absolutely do
might
that.
worth a shot.
Okay, so,
The phone and
Yeah.
turn it back on and it should be fine.
okay, so.
Sorry, if I can interrupt for
Yeah.
just 1 second. I was able to, did you?
I've got it. right.
Yeah, so did I. October 1.
No, it says, so, the manager has to place on the agenda within 30 days, I'm sorry, after his probation, which is then, and then it's prior to October 1 of each year, an item addressing his
In September.
evaluation, so it has to be at least September.
September. Yeah, so, okay. So I think we should just make it the end of the fiscal year and just make everything nice and clean and neat. So we're not measuring you against some arbitrary date that none of us are going to remember. Anybody have a problem with that? Gives you an extra month, Chris. Okay, so I love the app, Chris. But we only have 47 registered users on the app, guys. 47 people. Now that doesn't count people who have downloaded the app and can see it, but aren't registered. And registering is what enables you to engage with it in an outgoing way. So there are more people who have the app, but I asked Chris and he can't see that number. Because that would just be the people who downloaded it from the Google Store or wherever they got it, the Apple Store. So unless they've registered, we wouldn't be able to count them. We have 47 registered users. So it's not a big number. There have been posts on the app to sign up for the app. Well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because if you don't have the app, then you're not seeing the post to sign up for the app. There are email blasts. I've seen a couple of those. A couple of years ago, we coordinated an effort to get people to sign up for the email list before we had the app. And we were very successful with putting median, Art, you were a commissioner then, weren't you? Yeah, you were. You and I were up here. And we did median signs and door hangers, and it was not expensive, and it was a quick rollout. I actually hung most of the door hangers myself. I told Mario at the time, I will find volunteers to do it, and I did. It was like 7 or 8 residents, and we went out and boom, in 3 days, we swept the village and there was a door hanger on every door. And there were about 25 or 30 median signs. Chris, you could probably find an invoice that would show you how many strategically placed with a QR code. Say again? I know, because Mario ordered a zillion of them, but they're no good anymore because it says email list. So there's boxes of them sitting over there. So it was really simple. You guys all got one on your door. You may remember it, but it was sign up for our email list and we doubled our enrollment from that effort. So I think this needs to be, we need to do some grassroots stuff to get people to do this. And the best way to do that is hang something on their door and put signs all over the place with a QR code that they scan and boom, it takes them to the app store and they're in. So I would like to see that happen because we've invested time and money in this app. Chris is really hanging his hat on this app. The app is working. I find it to be a bit much when you go in here and start a request and you want to start looking for stuff to make a request. It's just an enormous, like I was trying to report an electrical box on the side of a street that was hanging open with stuff hanging out of it. And it was like, oh my God, I was just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and still couldn't find the appropriate place to put it. I couldn't submit it anyway. So there's a lot of time and money invested in this thing and we've got to make it work, but 47 people isn't cutting it. Yeah. So I hope we do something about that. Chris, the website and the other, I'm sorry, regarding the app, I don't think we ever need to think about decreasing emails and increasing app engagement. Those two things, it shouldn't be one or the other. And there have been some communications that went out that suggested, they said, email the village clerk and have your name removed from our email list. There were messages that went out and said, sign up for our app and email the village clerk and ask to be removed from our email list. I was like, why are we trying to diminish the size, decrease the size of the email list? We should be trying to increase engagement every possible way we can, not one for the other. The website. We paid someone to do this website. So now we're talking about paying someone to do a website for us. Chris, have you talked to the people who did the website? Do they have any obligation to help us out with that to make it better, a better version of what it is? Because I don't think it's all that terrible. I know my way around it. I use it all the time. Or is it an engagement with the app thing that you're having a problem with? Very dramatic. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll answer now. Legal is currently working with our vendor Catalyst. Our contract with them, their original contract with them included an annual refresh. So once we were able to get the terms squared away, which may or may not have to come before the commission, that cost of redoing or revamping or refreshing is included in the contract. Yeah, absolutely.
So just so we understand, the contract is still in place. I mean, it's
Mhm.
has remaining term left. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Catalyst, which is the new name of the vendor, I guess they bought out the original vendor. And what they want us to do is enter into a new contract with an extended term with the new company, with Catalyst. If we do that, since it's now a new term, we would have to go through our procurement process again and put it out for bid and follow our code in procuring the services for this vendor. So what we've asked them to do is we asked them, look, we still have an agreement with you. You just bought out the company. You've taken over the obligations of the original company's contract. So just take an assignment. All it is essentially changing the name. We're allowing the assignment to take place. Because all they really want is the name Catalyst on the agreement as opposed to whatever the original company was.
Just change it by interlineation.
And that's what we've been trying to get them to do. And they keep on saying, well, we're extending your term. We go, okay, but you have to understand, we have rules that we have to follow.
What's the current term? When's the current term end?
And if I remember, I think there's 2 more years on that term, correct?
I believe there's 2.
So
That would be 2 more updates or whatever, reviews or whatever they call it.
So that's what we're going through with them right now. There's some of the issues is I have to go through I have to go through Chris. I can't talk to the company directly because of some attorney ethical issues. They're represented by counsel and I can't, as the mayor would know, I can't reach out and talk to them directly unless I get consent from their counsel to talk to them. There's been I've had issues with that before, so I'm very careful with not doing that. And the last communication we had from them is they were trying to get a communication from their counsel, allowing me to speak to them and just explain this process. But Chris has very clearly explained it to him in emails. Chris and I have talked about it, and that's kind of where we're kind of at the stalemate with them.
So you personally can't reach out to their attorneys?
No, I can talk to their attorneys. They're a represented entity,
can't
so I
talk to
can't
you can't
talk
talk
to
to the
corporate
company.
representatives unless their counsel
Unless the
gives me
attorneys say that you can.
permission to do so.
But Chris is allowed to talk to them.
Yes, and so he's been very effective of Chris and I would talk and communicate what the issue is, and I would send Chris an email and he would basically
Copy and paste them.
copy, paste it or paraphrase it and send it off.
Okay. Because I see in here about hiring a consultant to work on it and okay, good. I'm glad you guys are chasing that down because it was my understanding that we paid money and an extended contract to make sure all of this would be included. And Chris, there was also a communication add-on that we approved when we got this website. Do you recall this, Art? That was a communication integration into the website that would facilitate a lot of the things that we're talking about. Are we aware of that?
That communication component is the email list that we were using previously. All those emails have been ported over to the new app.
So that's all it is that, just the email email list? Okay. I could have sworn that it included some kind of integration with social media and there was more to it than that. Because we had them in here talking to us. I'm gonna find that meeting and go back.
There may have been more available, but that is what Biscayne Park ended up purchasing.
I just remember there was a communication tool add-on. That's what I'm gonna go find that and look at that again. Can you send a copy to me of that, contract with the website company that we approved?
We can track that down and do that for you tomorrow.
That'd be great, thanks, because I want to look for that, because that was one of the very specific things that I remember we were very interested in. You're gonna send it, Brad?
Yes, I have it because I was using it as a working copy. So
Okay, good.
I believe I have a clean copy. I'll forward it to you and forward it to the
Okay.
manager.
So all the post-evaluation stuff, it sounds like you heard very clearly what we want, and you're working on it already, and we just gave you a little more time to get it done. I'll just wrap it up to say, I love the app. I would like more people on the app than 47. We have 3,300 residents, and 47 of them are registered users, and it seems to be the most effective way to get people to engage in stuff. So we need to hop on that, figure out what's going on with the website, and share as much as we can with residents.
Chris, since, now, very quickly, I'm interested because it seemed like there was more interaction with the app too, how many, 47 you said? Registered? Yeah, registered. So we have this app in these marketplaces. We're not privy to downloads? Or is that the contractor? What's the contractor again?
GoGov.
OGov.
Yep.
OGov has that information? They're not unwilling to?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, sir.
No, it's okay.
I'm in talks with them to try to find that information. The limits that they have is, for example, Google can say you have between 10 and 200 downloads. The challenge is, they specifically have multiple applications out there from multiple municipalities, so we're trying to figure out how to get that information. There's also the question of downloads versus, we don't know when somebody deletes the app. But still, just finding out the downloads would be very helpful, and we're trying to get that information.
An extra data metric would certainly be helpful, because I would be interested, hearing 47, yeah, it's certainly low, so it would be nice to know, even if there's a range to know. I mean, maybe it'll end up being 40 to something, and then we know we've got 40, but yeah, if we could get that information, it would be certainly helpful. And grassroots effort to add more users would certainly be helpful. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Everyone, Chris, who's downloaded it is getting the notifications, yeah?
Yes and no.
What's that mean?
The 47 people have registered as citizens. They're the ones that can actually go through and create service requests and things like that. There are two ways to receive notifications. One is to submit your email address, in which case those notifications go via email. The second way is to just download the app and choose which distribution lists, which app notification lists you want to be on. So for example, a resident could say, I only want to get public safety emergency notifications, or I want to get public safety and Parks and Rec notifications. So yes, anybody who downloads the app can get those notifications, but they do have the ability to choose which notifications they get. So therefore, if somebody isn't signed up for public safety, they're not going to get the avoid the area notification, for example.
Okay, so I download the app. Now I immediately created an account, so I don't know what it looks like when I don't have an account. Now I'm a registered user. If I'm not a registered user and I just downloaded the app, does it prompt me to go there and say, hey, to receive notifications, you need to go on here and make your choices? Or do they have to know to go look for that and actively say, hey, I would like notifications to come?
The notifications are automatic. It's assumed when you download the app that you are going to get all notifications, and then you can go in and deselect the notifications you do not.
Oh, so you don't opt in, you opt out.
Under this, this one, under the notifications on the side menu board there, they're all listed. I didn't select any of these, so I'm just getting them all.
You're getting them all.
I'm just getting them all. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's the best default, actually. Okay.
So I think this things usually take time for people to grasp, and not everybody has a smartphone that can take an app and understand how to download and how to create an account and all of that. So I think we're not going to get 3,000 people enrolled. And I think I would like to say, and I think you and I spoke about this with the vendor, what a goal, and relatively knowing that they've done this with other cities, what the success story is, and they can tell you that. So if they've worked with a city of El Portal, for example, and there's 2,500 residents, and they normally get to 10% and they consider a success, then that's what we got. And that's a question to be asked before, but that's sort of the metric that we need to understand, because it's not going to be everybody. The same thing that not everybody's using Instagram, not everybody's using Nextdoor, and so on. So I think here it's more have a benchmark so that when it comes to measurement time, and this is also in your performance review, that because we're giving so much emphasis and we're talking about putting money behind awareness of the app existing, that we are kind of consistent on what we expect to get back. That would be my first one. And then the other is on your performance sort of feedback that you came back with. Nextdoor strategy, 1 post per day, to me looks like an overkill, if I'm being honest. I think it's a lot of communication just to share about the nice to know things. I think we have to give the priority to the website that is a host of everything at the end of the day. Excuse me, so that everybody can come and know that whenever there is a question as to the details of how we work, the website has all the information. And then Nextdoor can be used as a complement, maybe to the main notifications that we just approved today. And that's basically it. Again, I don't think every platform needs to be used for everything just because they're not meant for it. The format is not meant for it, and you're not going to have time to be building formats to fit in the platforms. So I think that as long as we still keep the website our main thing, so whether it's with a vendor to understand what the flow should be and what the user experience is going to kind of look like, you know, if it's not too confusing and all of that. Because we have people from all ages, and that's why I'm saying we need to understand that not everybody's going to arrive to the app and see that. And then the rest would cascade from that. So I appreciate that you're trying, I think, just to spread as much as possible, because that was the feedback we had. Now that we passed more on today of how we want that to happen in terms of dates, you have it all out there. I just think just grabbing some benchmarks or huge to measure if it's working or not, so that these questions don't end up like, I don't know.
Can I respond to one thing there? Because I agree with you that the website's kind of the center of the universe. It's the center of the wheel, right? All the spokes come out from that. Here's the difference. A website doesn't reach out to people and tell them something's going on. They have to know that something's going on to go find out about it. And the outreach notifications on the app Nextdoor is still our biggest volume of people. Look at that Nextdoor, 1,700 members in Biscayne Park are on Nextdoor. But there's outreach to residents through the other methods. A website, you're just waiting for people to come to you. That's the difference. So the website as the center of the wheel, absolutely. But I think all these other outreach methods are very critically important, and Nextdoor should be used a whole lot, especially for now, because it's our biggest group. We have, I think we have fewer people on the email list now than we do on Nextdoor, and then we don't really quite know what's on the app, if we're being honest, and I have no idea about Instagram and Facebook. But, so I think those outreach methods are critically important. And just so you all understand how Nextdoor works, if I'm saying something you already know, just ignore me. But when I post something on Nextdoor, well, Ryan, you can't reply anymore, but your wife sure will give me hell. So Danny will reply and she'll say something back and she'll correct me. And then a dialogue takes place. And as that dialogue is taking place, the post stays up at the top and is very visible to people. When Chris posts from the village, his are closed. And the second it hits, it starts dropping down the list, and watch it. And within an hour, he's 50 items down the list and no one's seeing it now. So the village posts are not they don't stay as visible because no one can comment on them to keep them pushed up to the top. But when we all post, they can be commented on and stay up to the top. So we all can have a role in this as well to help keep topics alive. For example, there was a whole lot of chatter on Nextdoor about the Miami Country Day School things that were going on. And the guy was coming in here tonight to present it to us. Good night, Art.
Good night.
And no one knew about it on Nextdoor. So I put it on Nextdoor and said, hey, if you want to know about this from the horse's mouth, there he is. So at any rate, that's that.
So, I see 10 o'clock. There's no other comment on this at this point.
Really quickly, want to add, Chris, it definitely, from post review, you heard what the commission said. I see the change. I think consistency plays a key factor in this. I want to, hopefully we see consistency, because I think when things stop being consistent, people disengage, they stop listening. The grassroots movement for the app, definitely, I saw it during movie night in the park. You guys were out there, the staff was out there trying to push it. We have a lot more events coming up. Hopefully we continue that momentum as we go through the summer to try to raise that 47. So,
I second that. So, Mr. Manager, thank you for the update on the plan. It looks good. The app seems to be working well, and happy to see it continue to increase and get better with our resident interaction. So, all right, so if there's nothing else on that one on 12E, let's go ahead and move on. That's our last item for new business. We've knocked them all out, other than the amended new item, which is the potential amendment to the charter, section 2.01, if I got that one correct. So I guess that would be a request for placement on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're supposed to do it at the next meeting. If we don't do it tonight and we decide
Well, do we want to take 5 minutes, or do we want to move to the next agenda item?
knock this out in 10 minutes. It's going to be a conversation. And if we decide to do it, we can do it in 3 seconds. I mean, truly.
Do we have a motion to go for another 5 minutes?
Motion to extend the meeting for 10 minutes, I'll say.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, well, we have consensus. Okay, so charter item number 2.01.
I'm going to introduce.
Yeah, sure.
So this came up when I was elected the first time. I was elected during a special election, and at our first meeting, we elected, the commission elected a mayor, and that's when Ginny O'Halpin became the mayor. Our law firm at the time interpreted section 2.01, where it says at the first meeting of each newly elected commission, that would be any time a new commissioner is introduced to the group, because we never elect, a commission is a body of 5, and we never elect 5. So there is no way for us to have a newly elected commission that is all of us. It's always a portion of the group. It's typically every 2 years, we elect 3 people, and that's when we do it. But then we have special elections where this time we elected 1 person. When I was elected, it was 2. It was me and Ginny. And Ginny was elected to be the mayor at our first meeting. Our attorney at the time told us we needed to do this, and that's why we did it. It caused a huge kerfluffle, and the mayor at the time resigned as a result of it. So there are 2 ways you can read that same section and interpret it. One way would be the way our law firm back then did, who I thought was a great law firm. That's their area of specialty is municipal government, one of their areas. And then I have complete faith in Brad and his firm, and they're saying it differently. Now, Brad, when I first mentioned it to him, did say Max Wright, put it on the agenda, and then later, after more consideration, I guess you guys decided, yeah, you did. You sent me an email saying, yeah, it has to. Yeah, you did. So that's why I was surprised when I got the email saying it's not going to be on the agenda because Brad said not to do it, because initially you said, yep. And then you, I guess after more conversations, you changed your mind. So at any rate, 2 law firms looked at this and gave 2 different opinions that led to 2 different scenarios. My concern is that if we do it one way with one time that commissioners are elected and we do it different the next time, it gives the appearance of beyond impropriety. It looks like things are being manipulated. Like, oh, when Mac and Ginny got elected, they elected a new mayor and they made Ginny mayor and Dan helped them and Tracy quit and because that's exactly what happened. And now this time, oh, Ryan gets elected and they don't elect a new mayor. They just let it ride because they're all happy with what's going on. I don't like that appearance. And I'm going to say it again. I said at the beginning of the meeting, I was prepared for this to be on the agenda tonight because I thought it was going to be on the agenda. And I was going to take great pleasure at beating Veronica to the punch this time and nominating you because I think you're doing a great job. So it's not about you, Jonathan. It's about what our charter says. And we have procedures that we need to follow, and we need to follow them consistently. And if that had not caused such a kerfluffle before, I might be okay, like, okay. But it was a major blow up in this village when that happened. The mayor didn't show up at a meeting couldn't be called to order, then she resigned and we couldn't have a meeting. It was a shit show in this village. You guys weren't involved in it then, you probably aren't even aware it happened. But it happened in a big, ugly, splashy way. So I don't want us to look like we're manipulating anything here. I would prefer that we follow it the way we followed it last time, which is a very reasonable thing, follows the words that are on that piece of paper, and that I would then immediately, if you guys agreed, make a motion to elect Jonathan to be our mayor through the end of this term that ends in November at the election.
I didn't take it that way, so don't worry. I appreciate
When
that.
I also started before the meeting, I said, Brad, this is nothing against you and your firm. And he's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, of course. That's not the point. So, just from a legal perspective, then the benefit of what your impression would be with respect to 2.01 and then what the process would be to amend if necessary.
So the applicable provision is the last sentence of Charter Section 2.01, which says the commission shall elect one of its members to the position of mayor at the first meeting of each newly elected commission. So the operating terms are new. What is a newly elected commission? In our interpretation, and when I say our, this was something I discussed with my colleagues in my firm, similar to what your previous firm did, is when we went through what a newly elected commission is, we were looking at that is when a commission is seated to new terms. So, and I understand that it's not, you're never going to have all 5 members of the commission because your terms are staggered for that obvious reason that you can't have no commissioners. So, but at the end of a general election, you will have somewhere between 2 or 3 commissioners that will, depending on the staggering of the terms, where you'll be seating them for full terms. And this is not any disrespect to Commissioner Hunt.
It's always 3. It's not 2 or 3. It's
Okay,
always
3 terms, excuse me. I'm thinking back to the original selection where they were staggered originally.
We're still staggered. We elect 3.
No, I know, but that's how they got staggered. It doesn't matter. That's how we got staggered. That's how they ultimately got staggered. So essentially what Commissioner Huntington, and no disrespect meant, is he's here. The only place that your code or your charter uses the word interim is if the governor is appointing to fill a vacancy, which is clearly not what happened here. But essentially, if you look at the definition of an interim, it's somebody coming in for a part of a term, which is what Commissioner Huntington is doing. His seat is up for reelection in November, as is several other seats. So the way we interpret that is this is not what's not what the charter intended, is a replacement of a seat by a special election to fill the remainder of a term. Because in our opinion, that interpretation could lead to some very taxing results. And let's say, for instance, you had 3 commissioners, just as a scenario, who all at staggered times during their terms decided to resign. So now you would have potentially 3 separate special elections to fill those seats. And within a year would be potential. And you would actually be selecting a mayor every time.
Every time.
election.
Can I articulate the flip side of that?
Well, yeah, just
Okay.
in that seat. And I think for our interpretation, and there's nothing case law, there's nothing else for us to look at other than the language, is that's not what the charter intended.
Okay, okay.
The flip side of that is you have 3 people resign in the same year and you have 3 elections and you elect the mayor 3 times. I go back to the will of the people. The people fill these seats. These aren't our seats. They're their seats to fill. They pick who's going to be in there. And if people are quitting and new people are coming in, maybe those people are quitting for a reason. And maybe the mayor is the problem and the mayor needs to go. So maybe people are quitting and it's like, I can't deal with this and I'm out. That's what happens. Okay, so they're quitting, like, forget it, I'm not doing this. And they start quitting. We can't get rid of a mayor. There is no mechanism, Jonathan, to get rid of you in the mayoral seat right now. We can't remove you from your seat. This commission has no ability to say, this isn't working out, Jonathan. You got to slide down 1 chair and let's put Vero in that seat for a while. But if there's an election, it gives us that opportunity to correct a problem that might exist. I'm just looking at all the different ways this could play out. And I keep falling back to, I just hate the look that we do it one way, one time with these people, and we do it another way, another time. And it's ambiguous. It's not clear. It doesn't say after a general election. It doesn't, and our charter doesn't make any distinction between the results of a general election and a special election. It's an election, and there's an outcome, and there's a person. No.
Well, to head off this whole discussion, and not intend to do so, but any change that we make to the charter has to be done by referendum.
You would pass an ordinance and then it would be subject to a referendum.
Does it take effect when you pass the ordinance, or does it take effect when you pass the
It
ordinance?
does not take effect until a referendum.
So then
And I don't think it takes effect right away either, does it, Brad? I don't think it takes effect immediately after the election.
There's a period where,
There's a period that you have to wait.
yeah, you make an effective date.
I don't know that this merits changing the charter. If we were going to go to the trouble of an ordinance to then put something on as a referendum, it should be something bigger than this, unless there were like a whole bunch of things that we needed to fix, conversation we can't have in time for the next election. If there were some real substantive, like real serious issues, I'd say, let's get them fixed in a referendum.
And to the Vice Mayor's point, you can make either argument intelligently as to what a newly elected commission says. If it said a newly elected commissioner, then it would be a no-brainer.
Ambiguous.
And then, so there's your newly elected commissioner, Commissioner Huntington, you appoint a new mayor. But it says, what is a newly elected commission? Is it when 1 member is seated for a partial term, or is it when 1 or more members are newly seated to complete a full term?
And it sounds like kind of sorry, I apologize. I think we're talking about 2 different things then. I think 1, we're talking about amending that language to make it more clear when it would trigger an appointment of a new mayor. And 2, your second point, we're talking about potentially including a change to that that would affect a commission and how a commission would potentially remove a mayor. I think they're 2 different things. So if the intention now is to clear up that language to say, let's be very clear on when that happens, we need to decide what language we want to do. Do we want it when any commissioner is elected, or do we want to do it when any general election happens?
I'm personally not interested in changing the charter for this reason. I'm just interested in us maintaining some continuity and doing what feels to be the right thing right now. And here's how I read it. When it says a newly elected commission, a commission is a body of 5. And when that body changes, one's gone, another one's in, it's a new commission. That's a new body of 5. It's a unit. A commission is a unit made of these 5 individual things that are together. When you replace something in there, now it's a new commission. And that commission should have the opportunity to make that change, and that's what was determined before. And here's the other thing. What if this were a nut show going on in here? And there was a special election, and the residents, look, they rolled out and elected him with 79% of the vote. And let's say he was our knight in shining armor coming in here to try to fix everything, then someone needs to be able to say, make him the mayor. The residents just said, make that man the mayor, for God's sake. There was a referendum, like, for real. It didn't happen. That's not what's happening. But the commission is a body of 5, and it just changed with the addition of Ryan to the mix. So now it's a different commission. That's how the attorneys, and I don't want to speak for those attorneys, but that's how it was interpreted before, and that's what led to us doing it before. So we just need, look, we could talk about this all night. We just need to decide what we're going to do. Do we want to have an election tonight and elect the mayor, or do we want to follow it the way that Brad says it reads?
Yeah,
We just have to decide that and move forward.
I agree. I don't think we're going to resolve.
No, we're not going to, and I have no interest in changing the charter for this one thing.
It's what the pleasure, it's how this commission, by consensus,
Wants to move
chooses to interpret that provision.
So I think very clear on the fact that you are sitting on my left, not on my right, like it says.
On your left.
On my left, and you are the village attorney, giving us a certain recommendation that I take very seriously. And I would feel comfortable how you're reading it, and I'm okay with staying it the way he recommends it. I don't think that we need to appoint anyone tonight. I understand that it could go both ways, because I understand what you're saying. In terms of the past, we can change it, but I think the fact that there's different people here, there's different firms that actually are sort of proposing how to move forward. I take your advice, and I am okay with leaving it as is.
Understood. What are we going to do next time when when their firm is no longer the attorney, and now the attorney gives us the other opinion again? We're going to be flim-flamming all over the place. Yeah. I get it.
I think there's
Ryan, what's yours?
there's ambiguity in the charter. I think we should, as a larger item later, at a later date, clear that up and make this clear for other commissions in the future. Give me a quick history lesson. The 2 commissioners who resigned, was one of them the mayor at the time?
No. No.
That's what I was wondering, if that's why we did that.
No, she resigned because she wasn't elected to be the mayor.
But going forward, I do understand continuity, but I respect what the village attorney is saying.
Okay.
If that's his opinion, then I think go, our attorney we have now. But I think in the future, we should clear this up so there's no, the way we can be the most clear in our charter, that's what we should do.
And that's not the only place in the charter. There's,
We should look at that and clear that up. So this isn't a question for future.
okay, then it fails because at best it's going to be 2-2, so it's not going to happen. Jonathan, what was your opinion? You don't want to give it because it fails anyway. Tie is a fail.
Unnecessary then.
That's not necessary.
I can abstain.
Okay, guys, I brought that up because we went through this before and I didn't want to not have this conversation and have anyone say they didn't even talk about it. They just pushed something through. I don't.
No, I agree that it needs to be looked at. We do need to look at it. I agree. Okay, so,
Do you want?
motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Nothing on the next agenda.
Because we're caught up. Don't add anything.